It's
Let me
not stable, that's
check.
my IPNX. Okay, so we're live, yeah?
All right. We are live. Election Day 2020. US Election Day 2020. We've been out about 2 weeks now. First, I guess it would be only right for us to talk a little bit about home. We know a lot has been happening in Nigeria, and we like to pray for whoever has lost lives, limbs, properties, and everything. We hope that all of the things that have been happening, have been going on, will only lead to positive changes that we are all dreaming of. So we took the time off just to make sure that we are good. We want to. I mean, this took a toll on people mentally, and not just people on ground. Also, a lot of us in the diaspora were feeling it, and so we felt like it'd be a good 2 weeks of reflection. Also, not to, in some cases, lead to incitement, because we see how things could be taken out of proportion, how people can be used as pawns. So we're just being careful. But my name is Bola Lawal. I remain one of the hosts, and my co-host Justin is here as well. Justin, talk to your people.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be back online. Welcome back to. So much has happened, yeah? So much has happened. Some of us have been under the weather. I don't know whether it's a reaction to all that's been going on, but hey, man, it has been one heavy. 2020 has been rough, but October was an October to remember. People got it
October
back.
to, for
Yeah,
sure.
an October to remember, man. Somebody said Black October. I said, no, let's leave black out of it. If anything is red, it was a red October. Yeah, I remember. Funny thing, okay, on a lighter note, so as I said, Red October, I remember that Sean Connery was in the movie Red October, who just passed. Yeah.
Oh,
So yeah, anyway, it's good to be back on Banter. It's good to have everyone who's survived. Big respect to the fallen, big respect to the ones who paid the ultimate price for a very worthy struggle. Um, I still believe that Nigeria has a good future, and I think that's what makes all the trouble worth it. Uh, our respects to the dead, and sympathies and empathy with the families, with those who have had the opportunity to bury their dead, and those who still do not have closure because they do not understand whether their relatives are still with us or gone because they've just gone poof into the air. Yeah. And still, hashtag NSAS, man.
yep. Hashtag inside. All right, I got
Yes.
my guy Boye on. Uh
What's up, bro?
Boye. So the way this is gonna work,
Hey,
especially the people
boy.
that I
Tell
know
me.
that are voters, right? First, you're gonna tell me where you're calling from.
Okay.
Did you vote?
Yes.
You don't necessarily have to tell us.
Let's see your thumb. Evidence. Evidence.
You don't have to tell us.
I voted the first weekend, had early voting, which was the first week in October in Chicago. So I voted a month ago.
All right.
Madu. Well done.
So the anxiety of all of the stuff that's happening today was
Bro,
one of the reasons why I voted. And I guess, look, if my voting, if, quote unquote, didn't count, I don't know what I'll do myself. If this guy wins fair and square, fine, we won't die another 4 years. But because I wasn't able to vote, ah, I couldn't even fathom that. So I had
bro,
to go vote early.
it's beyond that. Like in Chicago, they got tanks, they got garbage trucks, boarded up buildings. They're ready for whatever's about to happen. So I don't know what's gonna happen. I know what I want to happen, but they're ready over here.
Wow.
Wow. All right, so boy, so that people, this is your first time on here. Even though in the past you've accused me of
Yeah, because you have an Android bias.
of sidelining you. Tell people about you, what you do, and how long you've been in the U.S. and why this election is very important to you.
So yeah, so my name is Boye Shobiton, Chicago. I'm a Nigerian, so everybody from Chicago know what that is. So I've been here since I was a kid, born in Nigeria, but I've been here since I was a kid, too young to remember. But no different from any other Nigerian growing up in here. You live in two worlds. At home, you're in Nigeria. Outside, you're in America, and you got to figure it out. So been in Chicago pretty much the majority of my life. Had a little stint in the UK, just here doing stuff. So I'm a startup founder of Aja Express. We are a marketplace for ethnic groceries. Start off with African groceries, but now we're kind of broadening our service offerings. But as far as I guess my affinity for what's going on. So I used to be the president for the Nigerian American Professionals Association back in my corporate life. And in that, consensus building, building coalitions, working with other outside groups was very, very important in order for us to get resources for our community. And those resources don't necessarily need to be financial. It could be just access to information. Oh, the contract is going to come up. You need to talk to this person. Oh, they're going to build a new thing this here. You want to bid on that contract or getting tuned. But sometimes previously we didn't operate that way. We didn't operate with that level of I guess precision, right? So with this election showed me that more so than ever, that was important. This Donald Trump administration overall is a shared trauma that Bola and I have. We were literally in DC the day it happened. We were literally
we're in the same room. We slept in the same room because of the program that we're on together.
We both went to the bar that night. So like in DC, like politics is literally like sports. You know how you have like the baseball TV of the soccer match or the football game or the basketball game? That's how politics is. So we're there and us thinking, okay, there's no way this guy can win. I don't think I got over that trauma or that initial shock until like 3 days later. And the reason being is because when we were there, not only were we there the day it happened, we had to go to Silver Spring the next day. For some reason, the place was just dark. It was just a gray day for some reason.
Yeah.
Then the following day after that, we were at the
U.S. Chamber of Commerce.
U.S. Chamber. What's it called? What's the other organization? The World Bank. We're at the World Bank.
Yeah.
The day that he flew in to meet with Obama, and it was just a different vibe. Like you could tell, like the soul of the city had definitely either changed or was just ripped out completely. So I would never forget exactly where I was and who was around me when this guy was elected president. Like it was a shocker.
Yeah, that's great. Just real quick, Kingsley, are you on?
Hey, Bola, I'm on. How are you?
Okay. So on. It's just like you don't want it on your video. I was just making sure. I wasn't sure if the connection was good or not.
No, it was good. I just have to stay off camera for the time being.
No, that's good. That's good. Kingsley, what's going on?
Hi, Kingsley.
Kingsley, breathe.
Let me just start by saying that Boyede just took me to a very, very bad place right now. Because Bola knows this. I literally fell sick for a week when it became apparent that Trump was going to win 4 years ago. I was literally sick. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not being metaphorical. It literally happened because I was like, I couldn't believe that we had this so glaring a choice, and America decided to go in one direction. If Romney had beaten Obama, I would have been disappointed, but I'll be like,
I'll be fine. I think I'll be fine with it. I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah.
It was a campaign of ideas, and this is an idea I disagree with, but it won because this person made the better argument. 4 years ago, it was not necessarily a difference of ideas, but a fundamental difference in vision for what America should be and who we are as a people. And I was shocked we decided to go one direction. That said, I think let me start by saying that I think Biden wins, although I don't think it's going to be a huge win. I don't think either candidate will win uh, by a landslide. I think Bola disagrees with me. I
No,
think
no, I don't disagree. It's the way I'm looking at it. I'll share how I look at it.
let me finish
I'm
how I look
scared.
at it first
Just
now.
full disclosure, I'm scared. Okay, I'm scared. I never admit this, even if I am. This one, I'm scared.
Wow, Bola, you are scared. You are all
I'm,
Superman. You're all Superman every time we talk, and you tell me, ah,
I'm
my weak
scared.
enemy now. Now you are scared. Me
I'm
that I've
scared.
been scared for how long, right?
I'm I'm scared. I think the time, like just being okay, now it's dawned on us, is what's amplifying my me being scared.
It's the
Um,
agony of the wait, right?
yeah.
No, for me, it's not so much the agony of the weight. It's just what I am seeing. So, um, obviously, I'm so unlike 4 years ago, I was actively campaigning and volunteering. Right, this year, I I was not as involved as I was 4 years ago. Um, but from what I'm seeing and hearing, I have concerns about turnout specifically in Pennsylvania, which it's supposed to all come down to, right? I'm hearing that the ballot return rate is lower and that turnout specifically of minorities is not as high as we would like in key counties, right? James Carville says that Pennsylvania is Philadelphia on one end, um,
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh on the other end, and Alabama in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
So the way we,
Yep. That's
yeah,
correct.
so the way we
Do,
win
do you want to
Pennsylvania.
explain that context? Do you want to explain that context? Some people may not get what you mean by
Okay, so
Alabama
the
in the
idea
middle.
being that Pittsburgh and Philadelphia are more cosmopolitan, diverse cities, urban cities that have, due to a lot more diversity, the demographics are in our favor, and so we tend to
I
win
do
those things.
think Pittsburgh leans a little bit more red than people would think, though.
Because Pittsburgh is like that's Western Pennsylvania, so that's
Yeah,
typically
Pittsburgh leans more red, but it's also still a kind of a major city, and so we do tend to gain from it. Net. Philadelphia a lot more so, but in the middle, and when you start getting to Western Pennsylvania, places like Allegheny County and places like that, that's where we have historically had our issues. And so, what we have historically done to win the state was to not win those middle counties, but reduce the margins and then overperform in places like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. That didn't
Mm,
happen 4 years ago, right? Which was
mm.
why Trump was able to eke out a marginal win, right? I am hoping that does not repeat itself this time around. But my encouragement is Arizona. We have a very strong Senate candidate running, Captain Mark Kelly, and I think while there will still be some ticket splitting, I think that we will net out a win in Arizona. And if we win Arizona and Biden wins Michigan and Wisconsin,
It's all over.
I think he will get about 271 electoral votes in that context, right? Now, Bola, if you did what you were supposed to do and you get us Texas, we can go to bed early, okay?
Yeah. So can I talk about Texas real quick? Um,
You
and this
guys
is
won the
my
case, right?
so there's no winning in America till till Supreme Court says you've won, because the way the legal system works, it's almost like you're shopping for a favorable outcome. So they'll just keep going, and that's why this election is very key, because of the Supreme Court, the constitution of the composition of the Supreme Court. Right now, it skews 6-3 because of aiming that What's the name?
Coney
Just put on that
Amy,
Trump just put on.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Someone just said, yes, the captain is popular and is fabuled over there. Texas is red. Okay, still red. First of all, Zika, are you a Texas voter? If you're not a Texas voter, please give your opinion. I'm sorry, I'm going to be
Zika
very
is a
blunt
Houston.
today.
Zika is a Houston.
Okay,
voter.
if you're okay, then
Zika, do you want to come on?
If you want to come on,
Let's-
please come on. I need someone to tackle me. But what's happening in Texas that I've seen? I used to live in Harris County. The voter turnout and the voter registration in Harris County is insane. Do you know that today in Texas we are only expecting maybe a few more million to vote, because 16 million people are registered voters in Texas. Almost 10 million, about 10 million voted before election day. So out of everyone that can vote, we have 6 million left. I don't believe anyone here believes that 6 million people will vote today. I've never seen 100% voter participation ever. I don't think I've seen 70% before.
I think a good number. I think a good number is about 60%. You want to get about 60%.
Yeah, I've never seen 70% voter participation ever anywhere. So we'll see. And I'm inclined to tell people that out of about 10 million, a good percentage voted. Well, the male voters, we all know that most of them are Democrats. But the people that have voted in person, I've never voted early before. The reason why I did was I was scared because of all this stuff that's already happening today. Some counties, voting machine is not working. They're harassing people. Things that you hear in Nigeria. All those things are happening today. So I was like, and then Corona. Like, do you want to be in line? Back to bumper with about 300 people in line trying to vote. So my theory behind the early voting is I felt like people don't want a lot of that, and most people that care about Corona are not supporting Trump. It's fair to say. I'm not saying all, but I won't say most. A good percentage of people that worry about COVID are not Trump supporters. So those are the indicators to me I'm looking at. And if you look at Beto O'Rourke's election, he lost by 250,000. If you look at some of the numbers, now my thing about states like Texas or some other battleground states that I feel like Biden will win. Texas, maybe he'll win, he won't win, toss up. But I think there's a chance. My thing about Texas, there's a chance. But my thing is that the election overall, I feel if Biden is going to win, won't be close in an overall number. But in the battleground states that he will win, it would be some will be less than 1%. So if you look at it from an electoral college standpoint, it probably be a very, very tight race. If you look at it from a popular vote, it probably won't be as tight.
But you think about Wisconsin, like Hillary Clinton lost by like 0.7 of a point. Like it was like maybe like 11,000 people who did either show up or voted the other way would have swayed the election. So like that whole aspect of that
Michigan as well.
I think the margins are going to be a little bit different. But I think what this election has highlighted to the world is one, like the United States no longer has a moral high ground. Like Nigerians in America are getting slapped both directions when it comes to leadership, even to the point where they are sending out like food baskets with Trump's name, telling people to vote for him, that he's the one making it responsible for you to vote. Right. So I think we need to also look at what after the election, what does the world look like? What does the standing of the U.S. look like? And what is our role?
In shambles. In shambles.
Are we really getting towards the point where like we're literally millennials, especially if you're a millennial born between 81 and 92 or whatever, you've seen a lot of shit in your life, like already. So what does the post-election world look like?
All right. So here's a stat, right? Since 1988, the Republicans have only won the popular vote once.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That was George Bush in 2004.
Yep.
Okay?
That's crazy.
Everybody knows that Donald Trump will lose the popular vote tonight or this election. It's very likely he loses that. and still we don't know who the president is going to be. Right? That's one of the weird things about that's one of the
U.S.
weird things
elections.
about the about the American elections, right?
It's
It is
terrible if you ask me.
it's horrible. And I think, as Boyede said, there's something about, if let's just assume Biden ekes out the win, as I pray and hope he does, he will have to do a big job, a yeoman's job about rebuilding America's standing in the world, because we have had a serious setback, right?
So some people don't think so.
Oh,
Well, I mean,
it's like,
as of right now, as Boyd said, America simply does not have a lot of standing as a moral authority. There was a tweet the other day by Secretary of State Pompeo, and he was talking about electoral violence or electoral corruption. I can't remember
In
the thing.
Tanzania,
In Tanzania. Thank you. And that tweet was completely ratioed.
I was so mad.
My reaction,
We
I'm
need to
pardon my
send you
French,
guys
was,
election observers.
yeah. So Abiyo, like,
seriously,
my reaction, and pardon my French, was fuck you. You don't get to say a word
about
about
other people's elections
what,
ever.
like, as we were talking, the Republicans were suing to disenfranchise 127,000 people who have already voted.
In
And you're
Harris
talking to
County,
Tanzania about corruption. You don't have, I mean, as they say on Twitter, you don't have the range. Sit down, right? So
come on your battery.
yeah, off your mic.
Off your mic.
Off your mic.
Like, what are you like? And do you know it was so Americans commented, foreigners and international people commented, but the way people just converge on the tweet, like, excuse you, that while it's amusing to some people, it's also sad because this is where America is now. People are like, what? Even if you're a Trump supporter, like, come on, you're talking about election. You're talking about election in other countries, really?
Yeah, so we just don't have the standing. So in terms of what is first of all, I would be pleasantly surprised if this thing is decided tonight. That would mean that it was a really big blowout, right? I think we are going to see, as a lot of the pundits are saying, because a lot of states like Pennsylvania, they don't start counting until after polls close. Some states like Texas, they've already started counting the early votes that came in. So we're going to see a simultaneous reporting of the results. But other states, they did not allow for that. And so it's going to take days for them to count a lot of the early votes that came in. So we're going to see what some people are calling a red mirage, whereby, because a lot of the election day votes, that is today's votes, will largely be Republican, we're going to see those votes, and it will appear as if Trump is ahead in a lot of states. And there was controversy about him wanting to prematurely declare victory and announce he won. But because of COVID, that resulted in a lot of early votes cast as mail ballots, which they will not count for days, we're going to see those wins being chipped away. And I think it will result in narrow wins for Biden in some key states overall.
So there's one thing about early voting that people are mixing. They are automatically equating mail-in votes as the only type of early votes.
Early voting, yeah, it's not.
I would tell you, a lot of people voted in person early.
Yep.
A lot.
Bola, can you share this political tracking map on the general comment section? Yeah, just to help people keep track.
Is it that the first to 270 or 270 to win, or?
Wait, how do you even do this again? Share screen. Okay, where is it? Have you sent it to me?
No. I posted it in the private chat. It's a link. So just copy it and paste it.
By the way, I saw a comment by Zika on the comments that I want to quickly correct. No, mail-in ballots were not only mailed to the aged people. there are states like my state where I'm in New Jersey.
New Jersey, you
And
can vote in person. I think
yeah, so
early.
I voted by mail. And by the way, it's not just this election. Previous elections, I have only voted essentially by mail in New Jersey. We have been doing mail-in voting for a long time now, and so it's not just older people that got to vote by mail. In Texas, that was the case, but in many states, they allowed what is called no excuse mail voting or no excuse absentee voting for anyone, regardless of your age. So
Well,
that's why in Pennsylvania, for instance, we're seeing a lot of people voting by mail.
so I think another thing that we should also bring up is you brought up this red mirage. Let's talk about like this mirage of democracy. I want to be very specific when I say this because that's a very, very loaded term, right? But then why is it that we have voter suppression? In a democracy, shouldn't that be the thing that you want people to do? You want to make it as easy as possible? Why do we still have 1960s?
So this is what I always say. I was like, anywhere there are suppressing votes, you always. Honestly, I'm trying not to make this as partisan, but I can't. With voter suppression, the party that is always behind voter suppression, and there are lawsuits that you can find, and they also use governors to find ways. Like in Florida, for example, check this out. In Florida, you're a convicted felon, right? And you've done your time. You came out. You can't vote unless you pay fine. Do you know that a combination of LeBron, Mike Bloomberg, and a couple of people paid over $30 million to pay these fines for people so they can vote?
So there was a very good ad that came out that featured Samuel L. Jackson, right? In which he said, "Don't vote because I'm telling you to. Vote because they're trying to make sure you don't," or something to that effect. And the idea being that, and there are a lot of people who feel, well, my vote doesn't matter, or what's the point? But ask yourself, if your vote didn't matter, right? Why is there such a concerted effort?
I don't understand. To me, I'm just even tired of it.
So let me ask you guys a question as an outsider looking in, right? Talking about the black community in America.
Oh,
What's your take? What's your take on? I mean, and I say this assuming that really the black community is a big swing section, right? So this attempt to split the black vote, where you have Kanye and Ice Cube acting the fool, do you really think it's going to have an impact, or is just banter?
Let me go first.
Yeah,
boy, this is Ali. Boy, this.
Boy, they take it away, man.
So okay, so for context, I speak with some bit of authority, not the authority, but a little bit of perspective on this, because as the president of NAPA, one of the early programs we did was a program called Bridging the Gap between Africans and African Americans. I think what we underestimate externally in outside the U.S. is the amount of apathy and amount of despair many black people, especially black men, experience here in the U.S. And I think that despair and that apathy is very palpable, and it can be easily stoked. I mean, Kingsley brought it up. Like, I did my time already. I paid my quote unquote debt to society. Then I could vote. I got to pay another fine on top of that.
Like actual money or real dollar.
Pay real money. Or you think about the rate of like black men who can't get jobs or who are working in like menial jobs, quote unquote menial jobs, right? And black women are doing great. They're climbing the corporate ladder. They're buying cars. You know, they're doing girl trips, all this different stuff. So there's almost like a dystopia, almost to a degree, where like, are we living the same black experience? And that's a lot of things that a lot of Africans, specifically Nigerians, we don't necessarily take time to appreciate why.
Or respect. Or
respect it. So that's why you can have movements like ADOS come in and galvanize around.
Please explain ADOS, please,
So
and the ridiculousness of it.
ADOS is a movement
Let
by
them catch you calling them ridiculous.
they're called American Descendants of Slavery. So they want to make sure that they're distinct from any other black people, that they should specifically get reparations and benefits because specifically the descendants of slavery here in the U.S. have been far maltreated, and then immigrants are treated better. Now, they do have a point. There is a valid point there.
Especially the rally or parade, or what did they call it? Parade they did in honor of Trump somewhere in the East.
So those are
stuff like that will just make them hate us more.
Exactly. So those are different chinks in the armor. So now bringing it back to your point, Justin, about like being able to split the black male vote. Like black men in the U.S. gravitate towards manliness. Somebody once said, one of my friends, I think,
brashness,
that bravado, that machismo, right? So when you have somebody who I've been listening to since 1988, an Ice Cube, who's been telling me to fuck the police, no Vaseline, like today was a good, all those, he pretty much was the soundtrack of my life for some people, is now telling me that don't listen to anybody, hold your vote. That carries some weight. Some people are not intellectually strong enough to push back effectively. And that's not to say people are stupid. I'm not saying that, because before someone comes and says that boy said
that black men are stupid. Yeah. That's true. Is that way? No,
I want to make sure I'm very clear. Because if they get their information from sound bites, or if some rappers who call themselves the street reporters in their music are telling people what's going on in the streets, that's who they listen to. Not saying that people are not intelligent, but they get their sources from different places. And those sources have power. Right? So that's why when you have somebody like Ice Cube says something, it's going to carry a little bit more weight than, let's say, Obama, because more black men.
No.
Listen.
I disagree there, but continue.
Because if you think about it,
I guess it depends on the demographic that he's addressing.
The demographic. For example, like I'm gonna listen to Obama, right? Because when I was in corporate, I knew the Obama types. But if I'm in the hood or if I'm in the streets, I can relate with Ice Cube. Like he knows where I'm coming from. So that's the person I'm gonna listen to.
Okay, let me come in real quick. So a couple of things. Even though you're right in that aspect, but someone like Obama, who is like a central, singular, iconic figure, they look at him in an aspirational way. Now, a couple of other things I want to say.
Who do you mean
majority of people that a lot of black men, a lot of black folks,
you're
putting a lot of people in one basket. That's
it's the basket I have experience with. I'm explaining. I've worked with them. I've hung out with them.
Exactly. Wait, are you on the board?
Okay, let me talk now. Everybody I know didn't go to college. I know people that didn't go to college as well. Your point about Ice Cube is valid, but there's a little problem there. If you look at the people that particularly support guys, people like Kamala Harris and Biden ticket, we were probably expecting 90-something% from the black vote being women. Black women overwhelmingly will vote them. The black men, it was probably going to be split. But one of the things too is that, see, this street thing, because the streets is a real thing. Like some of these guys don't even watch the news or anything, but they will hear. That's why you see guys like T.I. and some of these other guys that try to over-accentuate their vocabulary to make it to be smart. But it's street stuff. Like, man, let me tell you what they're trying to do, man. Those guys, unfortunately for Trump, if he's expecting them to vote overwhelmingly for him, they can't vote because a lot of them have records. Not saying that all of them will not be able to vote, but a good portion of these kinds of people that we are describing actually either don't vote or can't vote. It's just the truth.
Well, let me just chime in for a second. Right?
Go ahead.
I want to say this because I think we're getting a little bit into the weeds here, and let's zoom out.
That's what the show is for. Don't worry, we're not going anywhere.
We got all night.
Yeah, if I can just zoom out a little bit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think the goal of Trump is to win the support of black voters.
No.
All he is just interested in doing
Fox
is
in the hen house.
reducing the margin of
Yeah.
black voters that go for Biden or the Democrats. Because if you can reduce by a certain margin,
It's a
right,
vote for him, really. Yeah.
it's essentially a vote for him.
And not
Now,
necessarily vote for him. Voter apathy works for him. So as long as they don't vote, whoever
well,
they
That's
vote
what
for.
we mean.
point,
That's
right?
what we mean.
When you don't vote, you are actually making a decision.
Yeah.
Let's call a spade,
Yeah.
right? So that's what's going on. Now let's take a look at it a little bit more directly, right? We have been seeing that there has been a more increased surge in support among black men compared to black women. In fact, there has been a controversy recently as to some black men feeling that they're being overly criticized or thrown over the bus. Michael Harriot wrote an article in defense of the black male voter uh, recently that it can be worth reading. And the idea is that, and which is why I kind of lean a little to the side of Boye here, is that Trump is trying to reach out to black male voters in an attempt to reduce that margin. That's essentially what's
Okay.
going on.
Okay. So
And
let me add. Let me
wait,
add
wait,
this
wait,
too.
wait, wait, wait,
Sorry, I
let me
just want to
finish
add
this.
one caveat real quick. Is that
Right.
just because saying Ice Cubes and these guys are supporting Trump, overwhelmingly there are a lot of rappers and guys also supporting Biden. So let's not. So for every
I
Ice Cube,
agree. But
there is
again,
TI.
my point is about margins. It's about margins. If you can sow just enough doubt, if you can tamp down just enough, right, it may be able to get you over the line in some key states. That's essentially what the goal is, right? And then, in my opinion, when you look at that so-called plan for Black America that Ice
Platinum
Cube or
plan.
whatever worked
They don't
on,
rate us in this country.
they're talking about 500, and they're talking about $500 billion. That amount, it's bullshit. When you take a look at it, first of all, the amount is not specifically $500 million directed towards black people.
Billion.
$1 billion directed towards black people specifically. It's money overall that will be put in overall programs that he wants to propose, not specifically for the black community. Number two is that you have to wonder how many things have, even though this guy had the majority in the Senate and a good number of
4
people in the
years.
House, right?
4
He had
years.
4 years. He didn't do jack. He didn't do jack. And all of a sudden, he remembered black people at the end of 4 years. He's talking about, oh, well, black unemployment is the highest. Well, that is actually a residue from the Obama years, because if you look at the chart, you will find that it was already trending upward right when Obama handed over. He got a good economy, right? So I frankly think that people like Ice Cube, I think, well, Kanye is nuts, right?
Kanye
But
voted
then,
for himself. So
yeah, no, that we realize on here. Let's put that one aside, right? Right.
some of my friends don't like what you're saying. Though. They don't think it's crazy.
So, like, well, I said what I said, right?
I think it is.
It is what it
I
is.
think it's just being irresponsible, because the fact is that, listen, if Trump wins, a lot of these so-called black rap, they are going to be just fine.
It's a privilege.
Absolutely. Have you heard Lil Wayne? Some of the stuff Lil Wayne says.
Their wealth will inoculate them from a lot of the policies that this man is going to pass. So I think it's highly irresponsible. But
Kingsley, but to that point, it goes back again, like the illusion factor, right? So America has given us the land of opportunity, right? And we are literally have a very, very like entrenched class structure here. So people who are aspirational millionaires who are only making $50,000 a year now are worried about a tax cut that won't even impact them anytime in the immediate future. Like, no, you see what I'm saying? It's the delusion. Like, really think about this, right? Like, $400,000, you're still at $50K. You haven't even crossed $100K.
No, but by the way, boy, let's even talk about taxes first. So, what's his name? 50 Cent, who I also can't stand, right? He also engaged in some disinformation recently, where he put this chart talking about, Biden wants to charge the tax
62%. Yeah,
that's a lie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lie because you're not going to get charged 60-something%. If you look at the tax plan, he's talking about marginal increments of taxes after a certain amount of money. So if you make $400,000 a year, right, your taxes will not increase. If you make more than that, you are going to get a marginal increase in taxes over certain amounts. So for the first,
Zika, you're a tax consultant. You want to come on and talk about this? Sorry,
he doesn't want to talk about it. He said he's not coming.
But some things, I just read.
Hey,
right?
Sorry, she said she's not coming. I saw her comment.
I just read. Let's say you make $1 million, for the first 400,000, you are not going to get a tax increase on that 400,000. Now, for when you start getting to 500,000 and above, that is when marginal increments in taxes will increase.
Are you even minding these people?
So
for the most part, they still don't pay taxes because they get huge tax credits. They get deductions.
It's just disinformation. And Trump himself, he has a lot of nerve to talk about taxes. This is somebody who paid $750.
It's still under review. It's still under review. He's going to release it after the election.
I think one of the biggest exports America has been they're very, very good marketers, right? They're the largest PR. Like when you think about it, like fundamentally, like I think what Trump has done, he's really shown how weak these institutions are.
Yeah.
Like, these institutions cannot withstand a strong man. And when we talk about post-Trump, I think the work really needs to be like, how do we shore these things? Or how do we get a failed billionaire, if we even had a billion to begin with, who we don't know who he has ties to internationally, we don't know who he's beholden to, who systematically undermines his own country at every turn. How do we prevent this from happening? I mean, we were talking about NSARS 2 weeks ago.
Hey, Doc.
And then today we have a whole ass rally in Nigeria for Trump support.
It wasn't today, but
it was. Let's not give that thing more credibility. It deserves. It's some. Hold on, guys. It's some pastor somewhere in the East who called his congregation together, and it wasn't like there was a mass movement in support of Trump. Just saying.
But the problem now is nobody's not going to know that Justin. He posted it like a rally or whatever I call it was done in my honor in Nigeria.
But then also,
if you look at what's trending on Nigerian media, it's not him.
Yeah, but
hang on.
It doesn't have to be him. That's the problem.
What about people like FFK?
No, hold on. Are you guys saying that these issues, that video, comments coming out of Nigeria, have an impact on how people are going to vote?
Really?
No, not vote. No, not voting. Not voting, but relations. Already there's huge tensions between African Americans and Nigerians. Look, and then y'all doing parades for Trump.
Let me just say this, right? I obviously don't have numbers. I haven't done any polling on this, but just from my anecdotal experience, having interacted with a lot of my fellow Nigerians here in the U.S., I will tell you for free that a significant number of Nigerian Americans like and support President Trump.
Yes.
Let's call the spade, right?
Even Nigerians that have no business with it are supporting him for the life of me. I don't know why, but that is true.
Exactly. I was in a WhatsApp group.
It's the whole evangelical network, really.
I was in a WhatsApp group this morning, that has, I want to say, hundreds of people in it, right? Where there was a huge contentious debate between, and these are all Nigerians, those who support Trump and those who don't, right? And a lot of people who support Trump are also Nigerians in Nigeria as well, right? For who for different reasons like him.
No, can I come in here from the Nigerian perspective?
It is what it is.
After you,
mix,
Justin, I'll say something and then I'll introduce Doc. But so go ahead, please.
To make sense of it, right, you need to draw a connecting line between the very fervent religious nature of the average Nigerian, right? In this case, the evangelical community. Now, if you guys think that the American evangelical community is pro-Trump, in Nigeria, they are pro-Trump raised to the power X. Because there's this...
But it's not a broad brush, though. It's in a region. I can't tell you that.
No, it's not a region. It's not a region.
In Lagos or in the north. It is. I can't tell you that evangelical community...
Hold on.
I can't tell you that evangelical community in Lagos, in Abeokuta, in Kano, in Kaduna, I can't tell you that. We know where.
But that's not what I'm saying. You're not listening. It's not a regional thing. Don't make it a regional thing.
It is regional. It is. It is. You'll never see what happened in Lagos or Abeokuta or anywhere else. You won't.
First off, I'm the one who's evangelical between the both of us. I'm the one who's embedded in that community. Right? I live in Lagos. And I'm saying to you that this is a general church thing. Most Nigerian Christian evangelicals believe, not because of Trump as an individual, but believe that Trump and the Republican Party are the party of God, are the party that does not support killing children, etc., and all of those issues. Trump, who he is incidental to that. But then he's the figurehead. So yes, we support Trump. He's the one who's not going to kill babies. He's the one who's not going to come here.
There's also an IPOP component to this. Guys, wait. There's also an IPOP component to this.
I know Nigerian Muslims who support Trump. It's not just an evangelical thing.
Let them be saying the evangelical thing. There's also a PDP component to this because some believe that Obama was one who made GJ lose. Exactly. There's an IPOP component that Trump has promised them Biafra. And then there's the evangelical component, but it's concentrated in the East. And I will stand on that grave for family.
Bola, calm down. I'm just saying
if that's the hill you want to die on.
Bola, calm down. It's not specifically regional, right? The issue is that there are different Nigerians who support him for different reasons. There are those who are evangelicals, like you said, Justin, right? Who support him because they believe that he's the one that is about to enshrine God's will on earth. There are those...
because please, what is evangelical about Trump? Show me one thing that shows you a true Christian.
I didn't
about
say
Trump.
They are right. I'm saying that's
I'm just asking a question.
Right? Parabale, right? So there's that, right?
I can answer that question.
There are those who may not necessarily be Christian, but hold conservative views on morality. Yeah. Like when we're talking about gay marriage and things like that, who, even though they are not Christian, some are even atheists, right? Funny enough, but support Trump because, like, how man and man go they do? Nah,
Trump doesn't care about that. Is what I'm even trying to tell you. He don't even care about gay marriage. If you're talking about Mike Pence now, I get it. Trump doesn't even care.
Bola, wait. And then, like you said, right, there are those who have this weird PDP thing where they believe that Barack Obama
caused them the election.
That caused GEJ to lose the election, and so opposing everything on the Democrat side is revenge and blah blah blah. I will never understand that line of thinking, but they are there, right?
It is there, exactly.
So and it cuts across the entire nation. I don't agree with Bola that it's regional. It cuts across the entire nation. There's a huge swath of Nigerians, and then
on the PDP front, I broke down what I was saying, Kingsley. On the PDP front, it's not regional.
So yeah, it cuts across multiple grains.
All right, please let's get in, Prof. Professor, please take it away.
Doc was raising his hand. Doc, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, or whatever the time is, wherever you are. It's nice to be here. So, my thought about
You have to tell us about where you are, if you voted, and how is it on ground. That's kind of how
all
it
right. Okay.
started.
So, Wasil Lawal. I'm in North Carolina, Charlotte. How it is here?
Battleground state.
Yes, the battleground state. We have our fingers crossed. I voted like 2.5 weeks ago. So we are looking closely at the results here. They just announced
see my point. Everybody here voted early. See my point? In person. Well, not in person, but everybody here voted early.
So they just announced a little while ago that they're going to extend voting by a little bit in some areas. So I was hoping that North Carolina will be one of the first results we'll hear tonight. It might still be the case, but North Carolina is on the East Coast, so and we have an early poll close time. That's 7:00, I think. Yeah, because of the delays, it might get to like maybe 8:00. And then we also count our votes early in North Carolina. Well, they tally the votes early anyway. So the moment they get everything together, they should be able to start releasing the results not long after the polls close. So my thought is we should be able to hear something from North Carolina very close, not very long, and it should be one of the first things you will hear tonight.
All right, Prof. You wanted to comment about what I was saying about? I can't remember.
Yeah. So I think if we look at Christianity in Nigeria, right? If you look based on population density, right? The densest place in Nigeria where you find Christians is in the East, even though you have Christians in other parts of the country. So, but going back to the what we're talking about in terms of evangelical Christians, I think it's all over the country, but you should expect it to be more pronounced in the East because there are just more of them there. Now, from personal experience, we have family members who have said support for Trump, and the specific word they've used in Yoruba is in your buruku lọ́lọ́run máa ń lò. God uses bad people. Nígbà míì, yes. I'm serious. So,
but God no go shame us, but our parents know the try.
People actually, the words you hear from people's mouths sometimes, the words you hear from people's mouths, so people actually, so all that one that you're saying, Trump is, see, how many people here do not believe that somebody must have, at least one person has aborted a baby for Trump before? Who doesn't believe that? If a friend comes tomorrow and say, "Oh, Trump got me to do an abortion," would anybody be surprised? Nobody.
No, because he doesn't care about the issues. He doesn't even pretend to.
People see him as the number one fighter for anti-abortion. Why is that? People want to believe anything they want to believe. There's something I learned. There's something I listened to earlier this year, which I look at Trump and I believe that 100%. Those who tell the stories rule the world. The people who tell the stories rule the world. It does not matter what the news is. It does not matter what the facts are. If you can frame the stories in any manner,
you can control the narrative. Yeah,
exactly. And there's nobody better than him at doing that.
All right. So thanks, Doc. Doc is my brother. For anyone that's wondering, is my older brother. For anyone who's wondering. And is 10 times as smarter than I am. Yeah, I'm just me is packaging. Me is just packaging. Shay just joined us. Did you vote? Are you voting? Where are you speaking to us from? And how is it? And then chime in on anything you've heard.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the invitation, Bala. Nice to see you guys. Kingsley lives like 25 minutes away from me, so I'm also in the great state of New Jersey, Garden State. Let's get it. I voted. So in the state of New Jersey, as Kingsley said, we had early voting, but it's not in person. It's your mail or drop-off box. I received my ballot a couple of weeks ago. I just moved back into New Jersey. I filled it out, but I actually went to my polling place today to drop it off in person, which is an option that you have. And so I was able to take a look at my polling place to see what the level of activity was like and what the process was. There were no lines. There was not a long wait. I was in there 5 minutes in and out. And I think that we've had such heavy voter turnout in terms of advanced voting and mail-in voting that at the polling places particularly, we're not going to have a lot of activity, at least this part of New Jersey. Perhaps more so in the more rural parts that are to the southwest. So we'll see. But of course, we also expect New Jersey to be carried by the Democrats. It tends to go blue. Kingsley can probably tell you the last time a Republican had a reasonable. There was something that Doc was just saying about Chris Christie. Well, he won the governorship, right? But the state still voted for the Democrat.
Sorry. Yeah. I thought you were talking about the last time a statewide Republican won.
No, Chris Christie, and we'll leave that alone. Because his
one of those weird things that happen in some of those states, I would never understand it.
Even in Mass, but Mass, I can understand Massachusetts.
Maryland also has it.
I can understand Massachusetts because honestly, I don't even know why people call it a liberal state. If you go to Boston, if you go to those places, just spend some time there. Spend some time there. I don't know because I don't want to break any news, but spend some time in some of these places. And you ask yourself, why do people say this place is a liberal state? Because it doesn't feel that way. But anyways,
I have another question for you guys.
Okay, Shay was making a point, actually. He was making a point.
So Doc made this point about those who can control the story win. It's funny because it goes both ways. Those who win also control the story, right? So in the here and now, those who can control the narrative can shape behavior and create a win for themselves. But then those who win create the history. And the power of creating history is that it creates preconception. So there's already an assumption of what is likely to win, what is likely to be right. So much of what we deal with are massive gaps in historicity. So much of the political positions people hold are shaped by what they thought about history, what they believe or know to have been the case. A lot of our attitudes about Brown versus Board of Education and things like that, or the idea that, this party are for us fiscally, or they're fiscally responsible. So many of those things are narratives that are not related, they're not rooted in fact.
I know where you're going.
Well, to Rashid's point, though, I think this is a different era, though, because now we have so much visual and digital cataloging of things that people can refer back to. That hiding of that history is not gonna. I'm not sure. I'm not saying it will, but I'm not sure if we won't have a reference point. I think if anything, Donald Trump did good for the Republican Party. He definitely rehabilitated George Bush's reputation. Because before Donald Trump, he was considered like the worst. He's like this.
Yes.
Like, you know, so
let me come back. Hold on, before you move on, let me come back at that, right? So yes, we are now in the era of digital technology and communications, social media and all that things. And it seems like it's harder to hide truth. It seems like it's harder to obfuscate the record, except we now have so much disinformation. Because the
exactly what I was going to say, Shay.
The loss of
it's a double-edged sword.
Just as easy to put out a false narrative as it is to put out a true one. And in fact, if you're skilled at it, and this is what we're seeing with the Lekki massacre in Lagos, right? You put out a false
narrative. Create disinformation now.
Allow people to start to amplify it because they think it's true. Then you use another one of your sock puppet accounts to put out contradicting information, and in so doing, discredit those who have amplified the position of your opponent. So the reality is that the loss of controlled delivery of aggregate narratives, what we enjoyed in the 20th century. And I really want to stress this. A lot of us think about the here and now as if it's a revolution, a step change from everything that came before. In many ways, it's a version to what came before. In many ways, the 20th century was the anomaly where we had broadcast and communications technologies at scale, but with limited control and access, with expectations of propriety and fairness that attach to them. So you see that in the media. It's just like the way people think about the music industry and records, and they say, piracy is the new thing, and this whole digital streaming era is some kind of collapse of the previous era. But the truth is, the period of profiting off of recorded music at scale was the anomaly. It's a very brief interval in the compound history of records. So if you look at it that way, same thing if you look at politics and narrative and distribution, we're finding that this moment in the here and now may be a reversion to what came before. If you look at the yellow journalism and the pamphlet techniques of Benjamin Franklin and them, we're actually going backwards.
Yeah. One thing I will say is this. What is unfortunate about America is that what you believe is dependent on where you receive your information from, right? There used to be a time where we all received the same information. Now, we would disperse in our different opinions, but we all agreed on what the facts were, okay? Right? The sun is shining. That means we can go out and play or we can stay inside, but we all agree that the sun is shining. But today, CNN will tell you that the sun is shining. Fox will say that the sun is not shining.
It's a hologram.
Other people will say other people will say, in fact, there is no sun at all.
Kingsley, can I do you one better?
So
in fact, Kingsley, wait. Let me do you one better. Fox News doesn't even need to say the sun is not shining. For all Fox News needs to say is, "Are you sure?" And they've done their job. They've done their job. That's all they need, because once they create that doubt, finish.
So that's the essential thing. So when you talk about narrative according to whom? I remember one of the things that shocked the political world in the early days of the Trump presidency was when Kellyanne Conway went on CNN and said, "Well, you have your facts, and I have my alternative
facts."
And the entire political universe was scandalized because she said it with her full chest.
Straight
what
face.
Do you mean alternative fact? And the thing is that one thing that has also changed is the ability to be shamed. Okay, there was a time when, as we say in Yoruba, onitiju. There are things that, even though you don't agree, you would have the shame not to say these things. But we are now in a very shameless world where people just will go out and say, they know it's not true. But the goal isn't about, it doesn't matter whether you know it's true, but you are so shameless, you feel compelled to say, this is it, right? How, therefore, can you then manage a narrative, or how can you shape history with such a situation? Because in the future, believe you me, there will be somebody who will come out and say Donald Trump was the best thing since George Washington. Right?
Yeah.
Well,
I think they're saying it already. Some people are saying it already.
Yeah.
They say it all the time.
So that's how
he says it.
It really depends on, and even now, right? Even now, you have people who are even trying to sanitize what the Confederates fought for, right? History is a very weird thing, right? If we don't document things, and even when we do document things, you are going to get a lot
defend it.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting how these things go in the future, because we are just not going to know how posterity will judge us.
It's so interesting because the point you made about George W. Bush is, oh my God, for someone that like me that have been in Texas for a long time, like you used to live here too, and how this guy used to be vilified.
Make fun of him a lot.
And for people, I said it one day, like, okay, my first thing I said was, one more, I'll take Mitch Romney right now. And then I was like, George Bush started looking like a cool dude to me, even though there's this thing people say, oh, it's someone you would like to have a beer with. But we all thought he was dumb as hell. Like, I mean, the memes now, but there are videos There are videos that if you want to laugh, just play it. Either it's I misremembered, or whether you are if you put me once, shame on you. If you like, we should make fun of the guy.
Whether it's
And
English, French, or Mexican.
or
So,
Mexican.
guys, this feeds into the question I said I would like to ask. All right. So this whole obfuscation of the lines between truth and fiction, this erosion of the shock value in the public space, right? In America, and then I mean, it's fair to say that what happens over there affects the rest of the world because
Oh yeah,
a lot of us tend to take a cue. So this lowering of the bar leads me to ask, because right now, as far as I'm concerned, in America, anything can happen. Right? I won't be surprised if people start showing videos now of people carrying ballot box and running away. Right? Nothing will shock me. Okay, it's even happening. Okay,
It's happening now.
So that brings me.
but it's happening.
Didn't
So
he
that brings
say
me to
he would declare victory?
That brings me to the question, Sheyi. So my question is, what do you guys think if we wake up tomorrow morning and you people in Texas are still counting your ballots and Oga declares himself president? Today, I read a news article, unverified because I'm trying to remember which media house I saw it online, but they said they just erected non-scalable fences around the White House.
Oh no, it's not. No, it's true.
It's true. Okay, good. So that sounds to me like someone preparing for a siege. So if Uncle wakes up tomorrow morning and makes the announcement and declares himself whatever, and then gets whoever to swear him, give him the oath of office, what happens next?
Okay, so wait, guys, wait.
January.
No. Wait. Let's calm down.
Please wait.
Wait. There's process. There's
Please
process
wait
to
now.
this thing,
Wait.
There's process. No, but wait. Trump can say
You can't take
whatever
the oath of office tomorrow. Okay.
No, he cannot.
No.
Hang on, Justin. Right. Let me just walk us through the process here. Right.
Fantastic. Yes.
Trump can say whatever he wants to do. One thing we have to realize is that
drag him by his neck.
People on the news say, "Oh, we project XYZ to have one XYZ state." Those are media projections. Listen, there are two elections that are going to happen.
The electoral college, they actually vote.
They will vote. So we're having an election to choose electors who will elect the president. The true presidential election is happening in December. Okay? So after we have voted, first of all the states have to certify the votes. After every state certifies its vote, and that will come from the legislatures of each state, there will be a certificate that each state has certified that its electors are to go to XYZ candidate. And then in December, I don't know the exact date, the College of Electors will cast their electoral votes. And after that has happened, right, it will be collated in a joint session of Congress, in the House of Representatives. And then it will be truly certified that Trump has won or Biden has won, whoever has won, right? Then on January 20th, the oath of office will happen to whomever has won duly won the election. Now, to your point about if Trump declares himself president, whatever, he can say whatever he wants. But the truth is that let's assume that all the states, all this entire process has gone through in favor of Biden, right? On January 20th, Trump's term officially ends, and the apparatus of state will be transferred to whomever has won the election, whether it is Trump winning re-election or if Biden did win the election, right? And the Chief Justice will swear him in. The inauguration, all that has to happen is Biden taking the oath of office. And wherever he takes that oath of office, it is valid, right? Lyndon Baines Johnson took the oath of office on Air Force One after John Kennedy died. Harrison Ford took the oath of office in the East Room of the White House.
Harrison Ford. You mean Benjamin Harrison?
Gerald
Benjamin
Ford.
Ford.
Gerald Ford. I said Harrison
General-
Ford. Gerald Ford.
Benjamin
Gerald Ford
Harrison.
wanted to get off of
Right.
Air Force One. He said,
Right.
wait.
Gerald Ford. Right.
Okay.
So all the festivities and all that one that you see on the inauguration day, those are all festivities.
ceremonial stuff.
As long as you take the oath of office, then you are president, and the apparatus of state moves. So he can do. I don't doubt that Trump can pull a lot of mischief, right? I don't doubt it, but the apparatus of state will move depending on
They'll
who truly
drag
wins.
him by his neck.
So Kingsley, your faith is still vested in the institutions functioning as designed.
Yeah,
That's
guys,
the basis of what you just said.
Well,
To
I
be
would
honest-
say I'm cautiously optimistic because what Trump can do. No, hang on. I'll say what Trump can do, and it really depends on the margin of the election, right? If we are talking about a couple, 537 votes was what separated Al Gore from George Bush in Florida, right? And the Bush campaign, and by the way, one of his campaign lawyers sits on the court today, Justice Kavanaugh, right?
No,
And they just argued
two.
Oh, one. Brett Kavanaugh's on one.
Not
Kavanaugh.
Amy. Amy wasn't.
Amy
wasn't on it.
Amy hasn't even tried a criminal case.
He hasn't practiced
Yeah.
much. He's only been a professor.
Yeah, so they successfully prayed the court to halt counting, and at the time, Bush was ahead, and that was it, right?
All right, guys, please hold on.
That's what can be done.
I know we want to, but hold on. We got Lai is a lawyer. Lai just got on. So Lai, the way
Hi,
we're
Lai,
doing
welcome
it-
to the room. Sorry, just been quiet.
So
How you doing?
tell us if you voted, where you voted, what's the situation on ground, and then from a legal perspective, kind of give us. There's a lot of legal things just jumping up and down, especially what's going on in Harris County. You live in Harris County, so from a legal perspective, kind of walk us through how, because I know we are going to the Supreme Court with this thing, but kind of walk us through.
I hope not.
We are going. Don't worry. Kind of walk us through a lot of. They're shopping it now, but first, tell us your electoral experience.
And
then
that
maybe
would be a first if you guys do, right?
No.
If you did go to the
No.
Supreme Court, would that be a
No,
first?
No,
No.
Martin. No, more.
Ah,
I also,
now don't
it's
sell.
one-
Now don't sell pure water. Give us since.
like,
Please don't blow now.
so like, take it away, please. You can also talk about how long you've been in America and your journey, and if just take like 2 to 3 minutes or 5 minutes to talk, and get us going. We can hear you.
How long I've been in America?
Okay, I can
Yeah.
hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to join. I've been in the US for a long time. I moved here in 2000 and I've also moved out of the country during those times, and but anyway, yes, I live in Harris County, the ground zero of Texas. If the Democrats are gonna, I think the Democrats haven't won Texas since the mid 90s. If they're gonna win Texas, it's gonna be because of Harris County. And if we are looking at the number of votes that already been cast here, it is ridiculous. I mean, just in terms of the numbers, I believe Harris County has already shattered.
I just
the
read, yeah,
total
1.5 million
votes
now.
Yeah. So I believe that has already shattered the total votes that we had in Texas in 2016. Don't quote me on that, but we are talking about records being broken. The funny thing is, most recently, I would say over the last couple of weeks, the Republican Party has been filing lawsuit after lawsuit to try and get votes in Harris County either stopped or slowed down or not counted, and the Supreme Court of Texas and also of the US and also the federal district courts, they have kind of like batted all of this down. And they've been trying to kind of like they've had all sorts of loopholes or whatnot to try to get this vote thrown out. One thing I'm going to say is, if we're just taking a step back a little, okay, to answer your first question, I already voted. I early voted about a week ago, or maybe 2 weeks ago. Like, I believe
See what I'm saying, people. See what I'm saying.
The second or the third day after the early voting began, I just went out there and I voted. It was really fast. They've made it the Republican the Republican House and Senate in Texas have made it a little more difficult to vote. The first thing they did, I believe this was last year or maybe early this year, was after 2018 was to take out straight party voting, because what happened? So now you have to select.
I can do this thing now. So you have to each person, yeah.
Yes. So now you have to select. So what to give more context, Harris County used to have is the biggest, I believe, is the third or the second biggest county in the U.S. Bigger than a lot of states, just the county. So if can
it be equated to local governments for people that are trying to understand what you're saying?
It is theoretically a local government, but we don't have any local government like that in Nigeria.
Yeah.
So I mean, the budget is $3 billion. So
yeah, it is bigger. It is bigger than a lot of states in the U.S. Bigger than Rhode Island, bigger than Vermont, bigger than Montana, South Dakota. I mean, just the county itself. So if you're looking at that from the perspective of the state, if everyone that can vote in Harris County goes out to vote, Texas is going to be a Democratic state. So it is. So one of the things that happened after 2018 was that the Republican House and Senate in Texas said you have to select one by one, because we used to actually have Republicans in Harris County. The head of the Republicans in the House of Representatives used to be in Sugarland, right? So used to represented Sugarland and some part, which is and some parts of Harris County. So what happened in 2018 was every race went blue. It didn't even matter whether it was a dog that was running or what. Like every race in Harris County went Democratic, and it was easy because everyone just came out and just said Democrat, and boom, everything. Yeah. So I think that scared folks. They were like, look, if we make this easy for Harris County is going to just carry Texas, especially when we're talking about the general election, when more people come out. So it's almost like you can look at it from the perspective of one party they might affect their own voters too, but just the sheer numbers in Harris County is so ridiculous that they're willing to take that risk anyway. So if you're going to lose, you might as well lose by. But anyway, so I already voted, and I believe it was Kingsley that was talking about the electors and electoral college and whatnot. All that is true, but what you have to remember is when you're talking about the electors and the electoral, you are voting to elect the electors, but the electors are bound by the laws in their state. So historically, we used to just assume that once you win the electoral college, that's it. But technically, depending on the laws of your state, the electors can go and vote for someone else, and that has happened before, and they call them faithless electors. Now, that has never been a problem, right?
Just you don't tire. Just that kind of.
You people have used packaging. You people use packaging to keep your work. What is this time DDC you're describing a mushi Olosheka? So this is simply what you're saying is delegate will go to Godfather's house and collect money.
Exactly.
And when he reaches polling center, he will represent another party instead of I beg.
Now I think majority of the states have it such that you are bound by the popular vote of your state, but there are some states out there that don't have it that way. So that was why a couple of weeks ago, if you were following the news closely, there was something that leaked out of the Trump campaign that they were like, he's banking on getting getting his folks as electors in states that may go blue, so that they can actually switch the votes for him. So I don't think that's going to happen. Quite frankly, I think.
but there's nothing they can't try.
No, they're going to try. They're going to try everything, and they've tried everything. Personally, I think what's going to happen tonight. We.
Tell everybody your prediction. Tell everybody that prediction you said.
So I wrote an article a couple of weeks ago on October 6th, and I was saying, look, I think the election is going to be a snooze fest. I think it's going to be a bad night for Biden if he gets less than 340 votes. So I am convinced that we're going to know by 9-10 Eastern time that this thing is over. I know that everyone is kind of afraid and all that stuff. But look, even though I'm a lawyer, I'm a numbers guy, I'm a stats guy. There is this thing that has been going on out there, right? That because he won the last time around, they can pull it off again. Teflon Don, all that stuff. If you actually look at the numbers, it was all within the margin of error, and the margins that Hillary had over him the last time around was so little. But also when you look at the fact that he only won Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Michigan by less than 100,000 votes. The way he has governed, you would think he has a bigger mandate, but he doesn't. So he's not this popular guy that people think he is. I think he's good. I think he's going to lose big. It's going to be clear by the end of the night.
Sorry, again.
So
I speak tongue in cheek again. Sorry, as an outsider, just to get back to Lion on something. You said he doesn't have a big guy. His crowds are not. I mean, they're not as big as he likes to imagine and talk about. But I see those crowds. I see those.
Yeah, there's about the crowd. There's something about the crowd.
But
I want to make this
point. Right?
People who don't have jobs, who can come out for like
there
hours,
are people.
to come.
But there are people now.
Wait. 4 years ago, I was employed, and I stood in line to watch Hillary speak in Houston. So it's not a question of jobs, right? The issue is this: take a look at Trump's job approval numbers. If you take a look, right, you will find that he has not significantly expanded his base, right? He's still stuck at those low to mid 40s.
40s, yeah.
Right?
30s, like 35.
But there are staunch supporters.
Hang on, right? There are staunch supporters, and then there are people who support Trump, right? His staunch supporters, those who will watch him shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and don't care, that is solid 35%, not going anywhere. and then you may add maybe 8 to 10% more people who reluctantly support him. They don't like his personality, but they like the tax cuts. They like the judges he's appointing, XYZ, right? So you look at that percentage, right? And then you be like, okay, this guy is not really expanding his base. So you can say, okay, maybe he's not as popular. But one thing you have to understand is that, again, these elections are about turnout and about margin. And the reason why I think it's going to be close is he is energizing that base with the same level of intensity as we want him out. The same way we want him out is the same way a lot of people want him to remain. So I think it's still going to be marginal, which is why I'm counting on Arizona, as I said earlier, where we may benefit from a groundswell coattail or what is called or what I call a reverse coattail, as opposed to a top-down approach. I would be pleasantly surprised if it's a blowout in either direction. I think it's going to be a hard-fought win.
Well, I slightly disagree with that statement. One, I think you're right. I think he has not expanded his base, right? And I think that's when his base is his base. There's still a lot of people, but he hasn't expanded his base. If you go back to 2016, like there were a lot of people. I mean, if you even measure the negatives, like how many people dislike each candidate by percentages, Hillary Clinton's margins were way higher than Biden's margins in that regard. And also, she didn't inspire people. She thought she had it in the bag. Like Wisconsin, that whole blue wall.
She wasn't campaigning like
Pennsylvania corridor. Like she didn't even go to Wisconsin. Just imagine she would have done like 2 stops.
Okay. All right. So I have to talk about this Wisconsin thing because Oti sue me, right? Hillary Clinton had the same campaign apparatus that President Obama had in 2012. Okay? They were using the same data analytics and structure because it's data analytics that informs campaign on where to send the candidate, where to invest. Okay? Wisconsin has been blue since the 80s, heavily blue since the 80s. And the data analysis that they had, the much vaunted data, because I don't know if you guys remember this, Bola may remember this, but there was this skewed, unskewed poll situation that happened in 2012, where a lot of Republicans were saying, hey, it looks like Romney might win this thing because of the skewed poll or unskewed polls. And Bola knows
it was leading. No, he was leading Obama now. One of the last
exactly.
polls.
And I was very scared that
I don't know what those people were looking at.
Wait, and I was actually scared that Obama was about to lose the election.
And I was like this.
But you had people like Nate Silver. But you had people like Nate Silver saying, don't worry about it. From all I can see, the data, blah, 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 blah. And when everything lined up to the data that the campaign had, the data that Nate Silver had, everyone was like, wow, data. Well, that same data said that Hillary Clinton didn't need to go to Wisconsin. Okay? And
Kingsley, we are shaking our head at you.
Well, yeah, that was what happened.
Kingsley.
So I think data is as good as
we know better now. We know better now. But
Kingsley, hold on.
But that was what happened 4 years ago.
Let me continue.
No, I'm done. I'm done. I'm just saying that it was a data-run campaign and the data was wrong.
Okay, so I'm guessing the same thing happened in Michigan, right?
Sorry?
I'm guessing the same thing happened in Michigan.
Yeah, those are strong blue states. That
Let me tell you something about Michigan. That year, we had an election without an incumbent, right? Incumbent was not running. So on the Republican and Democratic side, you had new people who were trying to fill that office, right? So that means that the primaries were not those primaries where, okay, you don't have a challenger. Both primaries were contested in Michigan. When you look at the Republican primaries, when you look at the numbers of people who voted in the Republican primaries in Michigan that year, there were more than those who voted in the Democratic primary. So to now think that, oh, we have this in the background, we are not going to go there to campaign, makes no sense at all. It makes no sense. Of course, we are talking about this in hindsight, but
that's my point. Because you see, here's the thing with campaigns, right? When you win, everyone glosses over whatever mistakes you made, and you are a genius. When you lose, right, you're an idiot. Why didn't you see that happen?
Of course,
right?
Of course.
But I think to the bigger
70,000 votes. 70,000 votes in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania was what separated Hillary Clinton from Donald Trump, right? It could have gone either way. And I agree, it shouldn't have been that close. In retrospect, yeah, don't take anything for granted. And I think Democrats have learned that lesson. But I think there is a lot of hand-wringing over what happened 4 years ago. And I think we should just apply some context to it. That's just the point I'm making.
Wait, guys, please. I think Sheyi wants to say something. Let's get Sheyi in so we get a little bit balanced.
Because I think he's going to take it back to the original point. My only concern is like when you're talking about data, you always have to contextualize. You have data, and then you apply insights to get information. Your insights, your model can be flawed. So Doc made this great point that there were changes to the data basis in Michigan, right? You cannot extrapolate linearly from your historical, where you have had incumbents and maybe a numerical advantage, where your primary data suggests outliers that are inconsistent. There was a gap in the data, but those are things you will not see until after the fact. I wasn't part of the campaign. Those who were probably had these arguments. And there were probably people inside that campaign saying, look, the primary data suggests that there are more potential Republican electors here, so we can get in there. But there were people saying, but look at the historical trend over the last 28 years, right? And so everybody's okay, all right, well, you have the data, we'll go with it.
Yeah, but that's the lesson, right? Data doesn't vote.
Yeah,
Data doesn't vote. So
but to say
that's the lesson that we learned for 4 years. That's why, as we speak, Biden is in Pennsylvania. As we speak.
But kids, I just have a problem with that because one, the data has to be informed, it has to be contextualized, and also has to be validated and enriched, right? So it's one thing to look at the data, but then like Ronald Reagan infamously said, trust but verify, right?
Yeah.
So you have to interrogate that, and I think that goes with anybody in any level of industry, right? If you have a startup, you have a running thesis, and you test the model. Yeah, the data can say one thing that this is going to do one thing, but you have to validate the data. So I can't give her a pass for that.
Well, to your point, since you brought up startups,
it's a retrospective article called the $3 billion blunder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she didn't see the hand wringing of the black disaffection, which is a huge miss right there. We didn't see 51 or 55% of white women, suburban women,
it was actually 50
for Trump.
Yes.
Also, a lot of Democrats broke Trump's way, right? So those are things that have to be validated on ground. So I mean, at the point we talk about context, at the time of her campaign, she had the most largesse of money to burn. So she had all the resources to make this happen. So I cannot give her a pass on that. She fucked up.
That's fine. That's fine. You don't have to give her a pass, right? But since you brought up startups and you made the point that any propositional bet made on the basis of data has to be validated, and this applies in all industries. With startups, what percentage return on that investment? In general, when you have a venture fund, what percentage of your book is going to drive?
Justin, if you don't remove that smirk off your face, Justin, if you don't remove that smirk,
in 100 companies.
I won't be fixing.
That's a very very fair report. On the flip,
they lost.
Right, but
now why are we legislating? Why are we re-litigating 2012? How about
exactly?
Because Kingsley brought up Wisconsin. That's why we're talking about how
you brought up Wisconsin. I was just pointing out.
Let me make a quick point on that.
I was just pointing out that hindsight is 2020, and there are things that happen in the fog of war.
So let me make a quick point.
Let go ahead, please.
Listen, when Trump won the election, even he was shocked. Okay, even he
went to Michigan that week.
Right, even he was shocked. I'm not. I mean, everyone knows that I'm a huge Hillary Clinton fan, but I'm not here to hold brief for Hillary Clinton. I'm just pointing out that listen, it's very easy to look back and say, they should have seen this now. But when you look at what that campaign had, when you look at the fact that daily she had to deal with Russian disinformation from WikiLeaks and all that shit that was happening, right? There was Jim Comey, for God. Like as recently as today, I still swore for Jim Comey.
That one is standard. We post that one on Twitter standard,
right? Anyone that follows me on Twitter know that I swear for that guy almost daily. Right?
Right? I mean, no, but the guy posts something now.
Nate Silver did an analysis on how, as soon as that cumulator came out, a lot of independents just started breaking for Trump.
They were just like, nah.
Sorry, guys. Let me ask.
So let me quickly make a quick point about data, please. So we are talking about 2016, right? And all of the data before the election. And also we're talking about the polling right now. But I think pieces of relevant data actually also is the midterm and other special elections that have occurred since 2016. So you have Democrats winning or competing in places that they have no business winning or competing in. So, it's one thing for the data to say, okay, people are mad and upset. I mean, They won the House of Representatives by how many? I mean, they won in places that they won in South Carolina, for goodness sake. In Oklahoma. They won in Oklahoma. They won in places here in Texas, in Georgia.
They're even competitive in Kansas. Yeah.
So exactly. They won. I mean, they won the governorship in Kansas. So we're talking about. So that is real data. So the enthusiasm, I think, is true. That is on with Trump folks. But if I'm someone that I was 98% enthusiastic for Trump last year, and I'm now 100%,
Makes no difference.
It doesn't mean anything. He still has the same folks. But this guy has brought people out, people that didn't care about politics before, young people that typically don't go out and vote. All of that.
Sorry, let me write on what Lai just said. To ask you, now the only question me they ask, because I'm trying to understand what exactly these things I'm seeing mean. What do the bones? I'm trying to cast. I'm doing my Ifa thing here, and I'm like, what are the bones saying?
Baba,
so let me ask
you need a whole notebook.
Don't worry. I have my iPad, I have my iPad. Now, how much of what happened in 2016? Say
what's the question?
Sorry,
what's the question?
How much? Yeah, sorry. You call coming off. How much? What happened in 2016 is attributable to race, i.e., attributable to the fact that the incumbent or the outgoing president was a black man, and therefore who was brought to the office by the Dems. What role did that play?
Okay, guys, one after the other. All of you will answer this question, please.
I'm from Chicago, so he's from Chicago. Can I get this?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, I think Obama's didn't meet the level of expectation in his presidency that a lot of black people hoped for, and I think a lot of that played out. At least I can talk from Chicago standpoint. Obama's in president, and people still getting shot out here. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things that we thought that he's from Chicago now, he's gonna look out, he's gonna help black people, things of that nature. It didn't materialize. Now, I don't think that's Obama's fault. I think that's an unhealthy expectation of people because of how transformative of a leader and aspirational of a leader he was. That I just think that he had. I mean, for some people, they have Jesus and they have Obama right next to Jesus. That's just that's the level of where he was. So with that said, I think a lot of people have this misguided expectation of what the role of a president can be. Now, on the heels of a Trump administration, Trump doing whatever he wanted to do, however he wanted to do it, now people are looking retrospectively Obama could have done X, Y, Z, not understanding that, he's the first black president. He probably can't move the way a white guy can move, frankly. So I think a lot of that has moved the needle for a lot of black men, not necessarily a majority, but enough for them to kind of look at the Obama administration with kind of jaded eyes. And if you could just super liberal.
Okay, wait, there are a lot of perspectives to this, so let's be fast with it.
One last point. Then you have your Tavis Smileys and your Cornel West of the world, who are super liberal, who anti-war, and who did not see Obama as anything different from any other administration. He was just the black face of the U.S. empire. That's it.
All right.
This is great.
Let me come in for a question, right?
Okay. I agree with it.
Wait, Shay's going. Then Kingsley.
Right? Dustin asked how much of what happened in 2016 specifically. We can't look at the Trump years and then try to say retroactively. How much of what happened in 2016 is attributable to race and the dynamics of having had a black president and the dynamics of the demographics of the electorate? I think a lot of it is. I think that there is remember, even when Obama was running, even the second time around, there was significant angst and anxiety among a certain population. Talk about he's going to come and take away all our guns. He's going to enslave us, right? There is a palpable fear among a non-trivial portion of the American population who believe that black people are waiting for their opportunity for retribution. And that if you give the power at the highest levels of the nation to a black man, that's what's coming. Now, Obama was actually moderate, chill, neoliberal, wasn't going to do all that stuff. He took all the extremes off the board before he started negotiating. He liked to move from the middle. So they really had no basis for that anxiety in terms of the candidate. But that is a reality of their worldview. And so that motivated many of them to seek the opposition to Obama, someone who would undo whatever they felt Obama's done. Again, remember the part about narrative. Many of the things that are actually done are misunderstood or reframed.
I mean, Obama had a scandal for wearing a tan suit.
Obamacare, right?
All right.
There are people who love the ACA but hate Obamacare because narrative is everything. They see the world through their racialized lens. They hate a black president. So yes,
I just want to quickly comment because
Kingsley, wait. Kingsley, wait. You.
Now he can go now.
Okay.
To Jamosa 21's point from the chat, yes, many people thought that Obama was going to come in and be Captain Black President, man,
exactly,
hero, right? They thought he was just going to come in. We're going to get reparations. They're going to back the Brinks truck up. The hood going to be living good. And that's not what happened. And so, yeah, sure, there was disillusion with that. But that's not enough. That didn't sway the election in and of itself.
The black turnout.
But those black people, sorry guys.
80% of black women still went for Hillary.
Yeah, but you look at the black turnout overall in 2016. It was significantly less. You cannot say that. All this stuff didn't happen.
That was not a referendum on Obama. He wasn't on the ballot. It wasn't actually a referendum on the sexism against Hillary Clinton.
I disagree.
My opinion. I think
guys, wait. Kingsley, go.
I just wanted to quickly chime in because I have to hop off at 4, and then maybe I'll come back if we're still on.
We are going for as long as we can go today. Today is
today
is anyhow.
So the question was how much of 2016 was attributable to race, right? I want to say this. If you look at American history, the fact is that every time there has been one step forward on racial equality, there has always been a backlash, or as Van Joos called it, a white lash to that progress, right?
Yes.
When black people were freed from slavery, it still took a while before they could get the vote.
Yes.
And even after getting the vote, they had to go through things like poll taxes, Jim Crow, and everything like that. That has always been the case, okay? And so when Barack Obama was elected, we made the mistake of assuming that we were in this post-racial world. And that was exactly what it was called, right? Not realizing that the backlash was coming. We saw Barack Obama, the first president in my lifetime I have seen, address a joint session of Congress. And a lawmaker said, "You lie." It has never happened. Not even George W. Bush, whom Democrats loathed. They just didn't give him the benefit of the office, right? And a lot of that was due to race. I remember a co-worker when I was working in Texas in the oil industry, and I heard this lady said, talking about Obama, she said, "The boy lies." Now, anyone who knows the language when it comes to race in America, you are calling somebody who
that's slave talk.
That's slave talk. The boy lies, right? And then look at all the things that happened under Obama, right? We had gay marriage go through. You had a lot of social mobility. A lot of things were happening. All of a sudden, a lot of people, and the thing that when you are used to being in a position of privilege, equality begins to seem like oppression, right? And so they saw a lot of all this social progress, and people who are used to being in a position of privilege, namely white men, said, wait a minute, now we get this country now. What's going on? Remember that during the Obama presidency, a lot of the chants were, we want our country back. And it always begged the question, from whom?
From who?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Who took it from you?
Yeah.
Where is it going?
Make America
Right?
great
So
again.
that was one thing. And then the second part of why 2016 happened was, in addition to that white lash, also we were complacent. We sat at home.
Definitely.
And I think Boyede was beginning to make this point. If you look at places like Milwaukee, where
Right.
a lot of black people did not come out to vote, I know way too many people who just assumed that, well, Hillary got this shit in the bag anyway. There's no need for me to go out and vote. A lot of people got complacent and did not vote. So when you combine those two things, meanwhile, Trump ran the most racist campaign since George Wallace. And
He read the room.
And he actually awoke an underbelly of American racial grievance. People who actually would not vote for Romney, would not vote for McCain, said, ding, 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 this guy's speaking my language. And they came out in surge while we sat our asses at home. That was what happened.
So that puts paid to the argument.
Wait, so
Hillary's data points.
Okay, Lai and Wasil, you still need to go. Doctor was you still need to go.
I'll go after
Lai.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm just gonna say is, if we're talking about, first of all, shout out to Trump for inspiring my T-shirt. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. But anyway, on a more serious note, so the question, if I'm remembering it correctly, is how much does race inspire
2016, because Obama was president, and why did that lead to what happened in 2016?
Yes, I mean, definitely. I think when we were talking, I forgot who was talking about white lash and all of that stuff before. Yeah, I think it did. But I think even despite that, what happened, I think we cannot discount the fact that what happened was Hillary's complacency. Like, if we have, I believe, more than 500,000 people that voted for Obama in 2012, 500,000 less people. No. 500,000 people that voted for Obama did not vote in 2016 in Michigan, just in Michigan. And Trump won Michigan by how many votes? Like 10,000. So I mean, come on. If you, regardless of whether you want to say Russia did this or whatnot, at some point the buck has to stop with you as a candidate. You have $3 billion. You know, if you're running for president, how much did you need? You needed $5 billion, or I mean, so, and you didn't go to these places to go show up this vote. I think the arrogance of that campaign contributed a lot to what happened in 2016. Personally, I feel like what happened in 2016, though, with Trump winning, had to happen at some point in this country with the way politics and everything has just been going. Like, you know, when Obama came in, they were just like, you know what, we're going to make sure this guy's a one-term president. It doesn't matter, you know, it didn't matter whatever policy we're talking about. If Obama was for it, all of a sudden the Republicans were against it. So everything was just ratcheting up.
They branded it with his name for a reason.
Yeah, so this had to happen. But I also think there was the novelty of Trump. For some people, there was this novelty, like, you know, this is some guy that
it was cute
this shiny object is kind of funny.
It felt cute.
I mean, if you think about it, if it wasn't the president, it would be hilarious. Like, it would be very funny. So you know, he's this successful guy, as some people thought he was, and it's funny. And there was that novelty. Exactly. So there was people. I think there was a particular percentage of the population that was like, come on, how bad could it really be? And if you just look at it broadly, I can understand why someone would think that if you're not, you know, if you don't follow politics as much or whatnot. But now, though, he has a record. He has a record. That's one that people can really point to and say, you know, this is, do I like this guy or do I not? So that's one. Two, I'm finding it difficult to believe that he has gained net more people than he had in 2016. So if you're just looking at it from that perspective, like if he had X number of people in 2016 that loved him, like has he gained more people? I don't see it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't see it. So I think all of those things is and one final point. Joe Biden cannot be easily demagogued like Hillary or Obama. I feel like for a lot of white Americans, he's like their grandfather. Like, all of the name calling, the Sleepy Joe, or the whole thing about Hunter Biden and all that stuff. None of it's talk, right? Like, I feel like he's probably more relatable. Not probably, he's more relatable to the average American than Hillary Clinton was, or even maybe than Barack Obama was, for that matter. So
Barack wasn't as
couldn't be boogeyman.
Question though, that goes back to the question.
Can I
Exactly what she.
Can I say something real quick before Dot say something? I think Shay kind of mentioned it as well, and I don't want to gloss it over, but I think sexism, in addition to racism, also has to play. Because
Thank you.
Yes,
a woman, commander in chief, that wasn't happening.
Thank you.
It was
Okay,
hard
so let me put another horse in the race based on what you said, boy. So swap out Joe from this ballot and put in give me a black male. Give me a prominent black male.
Cory Booker.
Cory Booker. Do you think we will be having an argument? So Cory Booker is not a good example.
They will beat him like a drum. They will beat him like a drum.
Who would be the best?
Like, have you ever
no money.
Wait now. Who would be the most viable black male candidate?
Okay, Justin, wait. Once you want to say something, let him finish that, and then we'll take on the new topic.
Yeah, Justin, Pete Buttigieg was doing better in the polls than Cory Booker. Buttigieg, mayor of Indiana, better in the polls, and is currently more popular than a sitting senator.
Yeah, why is that though? You know me, I'm still stuck on that. This is not a new topic for me or a branch of. It's still related to the first question I asked. How much of a role does race play in this?
Justin, to your, but actually, Justin makes a great point, right? I think after Obama won, a lot of people said, "Well, if he can get elected, anyone can do this shit." And you
better anyone than a black guy.
Because ask yourself, to have a little bit of a variation on the question, ask yourself, could a black Donald Trump win the election?
Obama was roasted for wearing a tan suit. You're talking about grab them by the pee and all that.
4 years ago, the closest analogy, the closest comparison to a black Donald Trump was Herman King.
Yes,
and he was considered a clown. This is a bona fide.
No, be 999. I'll be 666.
999.
Yeah.
A bona fide CEO of a multi-million-dollar company. And he was considered a clown. But Donald Trump comes in, and despite all his hysterics and all the ridiculous things,
someone said in the comment section, someone said a black Donald Trump will be jailed.
And even as we speak, he still has a chance of winning the president.
Yeah.
So what are we saying?
A black Donald Trump is Kanye.
What are we saying? You cannot look. You simply cannot discount the forces of race in this country.
No.
The question now is: are they more or are we more? And I don't mean black versus white. I mean, are there more people who look at the kind of bigotry and xenophobia that Donald Trump is running on and say, even if I like the tax codes, even if I'm in favor of more conservative judges, this is a bridge too far for me? I think that is the question that this election will answer?
It's really about. Yeah.
That is the question.
I'm not sure it answers it.
Yeah,
I don't think it answers it. I don't think it answers it.
Well, it will give us more context.
the original question.
It will give us at least
I
more
just want to say,
context.
Kingsley, I think that because of the handling of the coronavirus, that question has been obfuscated in this cycle, and so it's not answered, and there's a possibility for another Donald Trump.
Which is both good and bad.
I
mean,
agree with that. I agree with that.
So, but I think it depends on how we are answering it. If we're just talking about sheer numbers, there are many more of us than that. So the way the political structure is just benefits that other side. Like,
yeah,
I mean, if we're talking about the Senate or even the presidency for that matter, the fact that we have 2 senators from California and 2 senators from Montana. Montana has less than 1 million people. California has how many million people? And also the fact that we use this electoral college thing rather than popular vote, that automatically skews things in a way that is just benefits the minority party. And if you look at the Republican Party, quite frankly, they've been operating like a minority party for some time now. They know that the only way that they can hold on to anything is to govern a certain way. So it's the classic way that minority parties operate in so-called developing countries. I mean, and now that we have Donald Trump, it is the same. I mean, somebody said something the other day. I was like, can you imagine if an African president says the things that Donald Trump says about elections and voting?
What's happening now is those African presidents are using Donald Trump's word to justify their bad behavior.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going on. So now, I really wanted to answer that initial question. I really, because I actually wrote some things down. So the short answer is a lot. Race has a lot to do, but there are some other things involved as well. So part of it is when we're talking about the black race, and I'll insert myself, right? Part of it is, a little bit of it is not being very well educated, not book educated, but educated in how the country works. You elect somebody, you're happy, it's historic, you elect somebody, and then 2 years later, you don't give him a house that he's going to work with. So this guy spent 6 of his 8 years working with a Congress that was not friendly. So now, what happened when we look at the results of the election? Black people did not come out to vote. In my mind, I felt, oh, okay, Barack is not on the ballot anymore, so it's over. That was 1. 2, they were like, okay. And then others were like, he didn't really do much. Well, how could he have done much when he had 6 years of a Congress that was not...
It was almost a lame duck.
Yeah, for 6 years, exactly. Then that brings me to something else. Something that we really, really need to talk to ourselves as black people about here in the US. The power of voting. Whether it's a presidential election or not. Larry was talking about Harris County, right? Those things that are happening in Harris County today were a result of the elections from 2 years ago. Finally, they got a Democratic county judge, right, in Harris County because of that straight ticket voting that he was talking about. They got a Democratic judge.
29-year-old Latina.
Yeah, from Colombia. Yes. Yeah.
29.
And the whole government as well. So they've been actually bringing in like liberal policies that represent the actual composition of the county, right? So they are not bringing in laws that represent let's try and suppress voting, but they're like, see, we have people here, they need to vote. So it's the result of those things that you are seeing now that people in Harris County feel like they can really, really come out and express themselves because the local government has made it easy for them to do that. That is why voting is important, whether presidential or mayoral elections. People need to really, really understand that, especially our people. So when we go back to, at the end of the day, even if Hillary Clinton ran a poor campaign, which she did, right? It's still our responsibility to say, this guy does not seem like he's going to be good for the country, which he showed. He did not hide anything, right? We should have still come out and voted for him and voted against him anyway, irrespective of whether she came to campaign in certain places or not, which we did not.
Doc, I love what you've said, and I think you are 100% correct. I think we always have to put it into the historical context. Not just voter suppression, but explicit violence targeted at minority vote throughout history, dating back to the Civil War. And when we talk about Black people in America, see, those of us who have immigrant experiences and therefore don't have the familial legacy with those things, we can have this academic, like, this is important, you need to get out there and vote. But for people who have lost people, who have had their family members hung and quartered, shot at the door, or who have seen their grandparents have to face with literacy tests and poll tax and voter ID laws, and to see that come back in 2013.
Thank you.
It's different for them. It's a different level of trauma.
Thank you. Because I was trying to explain this. Thank you.
When we speak to the American Black audience that is not, immigrant, we have to be very sensitive to what they have actually overcome, what they have endured, and how much they have borne for so long. Our spot is to support, not to lecture. And I know you're not lecturing. I just want to really emphasize.
Can I add to this point?
To back them up.
Yeah. Let me back to this. Let me add to this point. So a lot of us have similar backgrounds. I always tell people that most of us here, we probably even have better growing up backgrounds than a lot of Americans in America. We went private schools or good government schools. We did really nice things growing up. We are well informed. We speak well and everything. And so I used to be one of those people that these people are lazy jaw. These people are what? They tie them shackles. Say, me, I came here. Even though I was born here, I grew up in Nigeria. I moved back. I'm like, why can't they?
They grew up on the streets of DC.
Y'all wait. I want to give my point. But I didn't understand this historical thing that she's saying. Have you guys been to South Africa? If you've been to South Africa, a lot of what Black people are facing here, they are facing South Africa or even worse. But guess what? They're the minority. They're the majority in South Africa. And they are still facing it. That's what shifted my views. That when I went to University of Houston, and this Black male thing and female thing, most of my friends that were Black American were female. But majority of my Black friends I went to school with, majority of them were the first college-educated people in their family in 2009. First time people in their family. My parents went to college. I know people that their grandparents in Nigeria went to university. In 2009, they were the first set of people that ever graduated college. So that historical context, that's why I always, that lazy jaw, and Nigerians do this a lot. And this whole thing about, that's where you start seeing a wedge between African Americans and immigrants, or like Nigerians, because they feel like we all carry ourselves in a way, and we're always trying to lecture them that, imagine I grew up in, even when I was dead flat broke, the first apartment I stayed in can't be considered hood. Like at my worst in America, I didn't live anywhere near the worst place in America. So you get what I'm saying?
I agree 100%. And to kind of like crystallize that just on a voting or ground to ground basis, if you look at the Black and Hispanic areas here in Houston, you will have precincts like the 3rd Ward, that has majority Black folks with just one polling booth. Mm-hmm. And when you add that to all of the structural barriers, a lot of times you have people that are working, maybe they have hourly wage, going to, having to be online, to stand in line for 8 hours could be, they will have to make a calculation as to how they're going to pay their rent or eat at the end of the month. I mean, those are the kinds of calculus that people are making. And these are the kind of things that, folks know from a structural perspective. Like if we put certain barriers for people to vote, sometimes it's not even about them not going to vote. It's just practically they're going to be in the streets if they go stay 8 hours and cannot work today because they have to go stand in line and vote. So I agree with you, Bola. Like there's just a ton that I think we have to be empathetic about. And I feel like if you are a party on the other side, and I got to give it to the Democrats this time around, there have been a ton of barriers that have been put in place in Georgia and North Carolina and they're in Wisconsin, and they're just walking around that. They're like, okay, you don't want us to count votes that come in by mail after 3 days. Well, okay, we're gonna get people to go to we're gonna set up infrastructure that allows people to
You
vote.
started telling people not to do mailing anymore.
Exactly.
Go to the polls.
So they are helping people do those things. And yeah, I mean the whole thing about Nigerians or Africans or Black immigrants specifically looking down, at Black Americans, that is a separate question that I feel like we need to explore as a community and try to understand that the fact that we are Black doesn't mean that we have shared experiences, and we have to be able to empathize with the experiences of other people as well.
Oh yeah,
and what that does, though, to that point, that's why Republicans can exploit that, and that's why you can have movements like ADOS start out with it suppresses Black votes, makes Black immigrants feel exceptional. Let's be real. Nigerians, we feel like we are the old guy. Now we feel that exceptionalism, right? Because we're not black. We're Nigerian, we're Ghanaian, we're Jamaican. So we distinguish ourselves.
We're not regular Black.
It's a huge issue. And I think Brother Shay, you brought it up to eloquently. Like, our job is not to hear, it's a lecture. Our job is because if we're being honest, had it not been for Black Americans' struggles in the 60s, our parents are not here. People forget. Like Kwame Nkrumah went to HBCU. Nnamdi Ezekwe went to HBCU. These people are members of Black Greek letter organizations, and they went back to lead country. Granted, things probably didn't work out the way we want them to work out, the way we want it to work out.
Wait. Zeke was a Greek?
Yeah, he's Sigma.
What?
Yeah. Kwame Nkrumah, Sigma.
Hey, man, at least he ain't a Kappa.
So,
okay.
Say, what are you?
I didn't pledge. I didn't pledge. By the time I came back to the US, I was too grown to put myself through all that. Like, you gonna ask
when? I have too much work to do.
I pledged. It was 7 of us, and there's only 2 African Americans on my line. Everybody else was Haiti, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Peru, and then like Chicago and Detroit.
That's typical Houston. If you go to Houston, out of 10 guys on their line, 9 of them they're not even Africans. 9 of them are Nigerians.
but not to digress, but I bring that point up because I think we need to be very, very sensitive to that, because we get into the tricks of this Black exceptionalism, right? And it's funny because Nigerians fall into this trick. Like let me take a little bit of a detour, just a small detour, please. So when all the Black Lives Matter things are going on in like late May, June, July, a lot of Nigerians are like, look, what are they doing? They're tearing down their homes. Then fast forward, we have NSARS. Now we're looking for allies. Why is Beyonce speaking up? Why is this person speaking up? But wait, what happened back in June? You didn't understand it then until the shoe was on the other foot. So that whole disconnect, that inability for us to really, really sit across and learn. And funny enough, a lot of it has been structural. Like, how many Nigerians actually really, really, really know Nigerian history? Like, history.
No,
you know
that's another thing. Yeah, you're right.
I agree. Like, I feel like there is a lot of work that needs to be done on that front, just in getting people to So I mean, even if you look at now, I'm remembering, if you look at just historically, this whole thing about exceptional Nigerians or Africans, that only occurs for immigrants and first generation immigrants. By the further you go, they
assimilate.
You assimilate.
The Americans,
we don't do better than Black Americans. So especially for those of us that are in diaspora, like if we think that because we grew up in Nigeria or we are these special people or whatnot, your kids, your grandkids, it's gonna be the same for them. So it's
exactly. Yeah, nobody's gonna see my daughter outside and say she's Nigerian, whatever. Yeah, she's American. I
don't even think it's just about the perception of your daughter. I think that
I'm just.
I get what you're saying, but I'm saying that what happens is, Bola mentioned this. We have a very similar experience. Born here, went home, grew up, came back. right, as a relative adult. And those formative years,
Same as Dr. Wasil.
yeah, no, it's your brother. Those formative years, that growing up in that environment and having a certain amount of confidence and beauty in you. Everybody's black, yeah. Shit don't work, and there's mad corruption. But everybody's black, so nobody looks down at you for being black, and you don't get that kind of pejorative attached to you in your youth. But I got a kid now, and sometimes at school, when they want to be like, "Oh, he was acting out," I'm like, "Was he? Was he acting out?" Or just saying that he's black, that when he speaks up, it's disruptive. But when, Billy or Aiden speaks up, it's so creative and expressive, right? And so where are we?
We have to have this conversation, because a lot of what you're saying is, so many people in Nigeria have no idea.
No, they don't.
They want to move. They want to move. When they move here, and then they now start seeing.
Jackpot.
They now start seeing why is at the workplace.
I'm not saying that you should not jump out if you need to jump. But I'm saying understand what you get yourself into. Okay,
they don't want to hear that. They do not want to hear that.
Did you see that lady on Twitter that had a child? She was in London, and the child was crying about how the child wants to move back to Nigeria because of all the racism the child was facing. I think we have this thing, and I think, I'm sorry to go there, but we can talk about how a little bit of religion plays into this whitewashing, the white brainwashing, where we think that the holier I am, the closer to whiteness I can get. Let's keep it a buck. So we think this, and then we are do unintentional harm. So I have the opposite experience with you guys, right? I was born in Nigeria, and I came as a kid. You know what I'm saying? It took me a long time to kind of unpack things that, I'll go to church, okay, white Jesus, or white people are good. Everything white people do, okay, anything a black person does is bad, because that's what you're indoctrinated to. I mean, to the point, I remember one time I had a report card. I didn't want to show my parents. I got straight up on my report card, but I didn't want to show my parents because I thought I didn't do good because I was black. I was the only black dude in the school at the time. So a lot of these things that we kind of indoctrinate, and then we get older into the professional world, and we're the one becoming directors and managers and etc.
If you get there, if you get there.
But if you get there, then again you're in that same position, right? You're in that one of the first of, and you happen to be black, but your experiences don't relate to the average black.
Let me give you guys an experience. One of my very first views of corporate Nigeria. It was actually Justin. It took me to a meeting at Access Bank. You didn't know this, Justin, but when I went upstairs and I saw a big old cubicle, and all I saw was black people working, and I didn't say anything, but you didn't know how I felt. I've never seen that before. I'm just being real. I've never seen that before.
Yeah.
And it did something to me. And sometimes when people say how passionate I 99% of the money I make or things I do in Nigeria, I spend most of the time in Texas. Everybody knows that I'm just here physical. Spirit, I'm in Nigeria. Everybody knows that. When you work in corporate America, when you work in oil company, good old boy network and everything, all you see, is that you trying to be like them, which you really can't, but you have to try. That try alone can get you so much. And then it was whatever the crumbs they drop for you on the table. So that experience, and then you go to Nigeria and say something else, makes me feel some type of way. So when I look at, and this goes down to even why Black Americans want to vote, I don't want to vote, because sometimes you just don't feel like you belong. And people can't understand that, especially us Nigerians. A lot of us can't understand why it's light now. Maybe there's rules now. What?
The thing with it is, from my perspective, the thing with what I found out when I spent some time in the US, some schooling and all, we had this conversation. Me, a South African, a German, 2 Americans. One night, we literally spent the whole night talking in the common room area, and then went to bed in the morning. And we were talking about race relations. And in that conversation, it became clear to everybody, all 6 of us are thereabouts in that conversation, that we all have a different concept of what racism is. Hi, Ayo.
Hi.
Right? And even between me and the South African, Kamo was more able to relate with the Black American experience of race than me in Nigeria, even though we're
Yes.
both right. It doesn't
Yes.
exist in Nigeria. That concept of me being the other, me being the minority, alluding to what Bola just said about coming into a corporate environment and you see people doing stuff and they all look like you, right? That's what the Nigerian experience is. So when I am in another environment, there is nothing in my historicity that prepares me to be the other or to think I'm the other, right? You can bring it to me, but I'm going to react from my own frame of reference. Now that's different from a South African. You can for a Nigerian, you can make, it took me a while. I had to learn how to understand the backhanded racial comments that people make to you as a black person in America. It's in they pour off my body like water. It was when I started engaging with you, I started understanding, oh, he's trying to be racist. And then I moved.
Well spoken. Just about yes.
You know? So the typical one being, I mean, one of the first ones that I came to terms with was the compliments that are not compliments. You speak very well did you do all your schooling in Nigeria? Yes.
Oh, Justin, don't get me.
Yes.
Justin, don't go there.
It took me a while to get it. But I was like, so what did you think you were trying to be racist? Oh boy, move. But the South African girl couldn't take it. Right? She's like, why did you give him back? I said, what am I giving him back? I speak better English than him. So if he's trying to be slick with the question, consign and what's my own? But she was upset on my behalf. I'm like, but I'm not upset. Right? So
it can be hard to be not upset in that kind of situation. I've had it happen to me before. I've had it happen to me in the public.
As a Nigerian, I can't even be upset. It doesn't mean anything to me. Do you understand? Your intention to be racist falls off my skin. I'm almost bulletproof to it. Yeah. It bounces off me because I can't relate. I might have a mental understanding of it, but it doesn't affect me on the emotional level. Now, an African American cannot contain that kind of stuff the way I would contain it. It means nothing to me. It means everything to him. The South African feels some type of way about it because of their history. And I think
do you know? Go ahead. Finish up, and then we'll bring Ayo in. Finish up.
Okay. The reason I'm telling the story is I think that understanding that difference in our histories will play a role in smoothing out the frictions between the ADOs or the African Americans and the African immigrants, and then Africans here in Africa back home. Right? People need to understand that our experience here is different, and we have to learn to empathize. And I think that the onus is on Africans actually who come over there, right? To learn to empathize, not learn to be affected by it. I don't want to be affected by it. So you can make racist jabs all day, F you, man, right? But I need to understand it so that I can empathize.
But can you understand it and then not eventually start to be not impacted and you'll never be equally impacted, right? But I think that part of the understanding is you can't understand that someone is speaking down to you and still feel the same as you did when you didn't understand what was happening. You know what I mean? Because as soon as I realized that somebody, and I'll give a non-race related example, right? If someone says, you're pretty for a dark-skinned girl, the first time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, pretty. Then later on, if it hits me that they're talking funny, I can't feel the same, it's sort of like your knowledge immediately, now you don't have that,
That one is really extreme. It's not extreme. That's exact same example with you. Oh, you speak very good English. It's the same thing, right? For an African, it's the same thing. Now, let me tell you what I mean by it doesn't affect me. I understand it, right? That's what you're doing. Now, I have two choices. I can put you in your place by talking back. I can simply walk away. Knowing, now, why would I walk away without looking back at you? Is it worth my time? I big pass you. Do you understand? And everybody may not be in that position, but I find myself in situations where for you to be in my space and be talking that at me, we're either at peer level or I'm somewhere above you professionally.
Oh shit!
Right? Can I add to that? I mean,
Cam must have the energy to engage.
No, but I think that comes with a bit of privilege, and I don't say that word lightly, right? Because you could walk away, right? You know what I'm saying? You could walk away, but then even if you were big past someone and you getting disrespected by someone lower, there's other black people looking at you, right? Like, what are you gonna do, right? How are you gonna? So, like, I think that.
So thinking for the community comes in here.
Right. I think it depends. It's not a one size fits all. Like, you're not gonna backhand everyone. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But some people need to be made an example of. You know what I'm saying? At times,
True.
That just has to happen because, like, it's almost like you know the saying, like, you're doing it for the culture. Yeah, at this time.
Yeah.
Right. So,
all right, guys, let's hold on a second. So Ayo joined us. So Ayo, welcome. The way it works, have you voted?
I voted like 2 weeks ago. I've even forgotten that I voted. Let me go vote again.
Any violence? any violence in your location? Any violence in your location? What's the situation on ground?
Oh my god! No, I voted like 2 weeks ago, so I don't remember.
The conversation you walked into the conversation you walked into was about dynamics between, immigrants, Nigerians, Africans, and African Americans. But in larger context, we're talking about our thoughts about the election and some of the reasons why we have low turnout with African Americans. So, wherever you want to pick it up from, feel free to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what all you guys have talked about, but I think that, like, when you said the low turnout thing, it just made me think of, like, the fact that oftentimes we don't understand what it has taken for people to even get to where they can vote and all of the all of
hold on.
Very
Michael,
my people, well done. How are you guys?
Michael, just hang on. Just mute for a second. We'll call you when ready. Just hang on.
See panel. You people are scaring me.
Michael, promise I don't go to.
Michael, mute yourself. Off your mic, please. Just off your mic first.
Okay, off my mic. Okay, off my mic.
I just want to know.
No, generation. I'm a young man.
Is it whiskey o'clock already, or are we still drinking tea? But I was just saying that about, like, there's a podcast I was listening to that, like, and the reality is most of us as African immigrants, and from accents, I can tell that this group has been, those, for everyone who's in the US, has been here very different amounts of time, and so there's just a different level of, like.
Just remember that joke about Clubhouse.
Yeah. I was gonna say I don't have an iPhone, so I can't even be allowed to understand Clubhouse jokes, but I just realized this last week. I was like, what is Clubhouse? I want to be there. And then I was told that it's for the iPhoneers, so I will never. But anyway, so about like I moved here when I was 13. So like high school was kind of like whatever, right? It's in college, it's college that radicalized me in a sense, like learning and like hearing about things like the Willie Lynch letter for the first time, and I was like, oh, that's horrible. And people were like, oh, welcome. Like, you're just like, you're 18, 19, 20, and you're learning about things that people learned at Juneteenth celebrations when they were like, in middle school. And so it's just kind of catching up to it's interesting something you were saying, Justin. It's sort of like, you now have to catch up. It's not like now I'm angry about something that I didn't even know happened, right, until the last few years. But I think that it's really interesting to stop and think, understand, and then be empathetic towards the reason a lot of things are, like I was, my mom, the George Floyd situation has like radicalized my mom, right? So now she's like, these people are horrible, and all of these things. Before, she used to do the exceptional Black immigrant thing where it's like, yeah, if they would just, and why can't they just?
If he was educated now, that would not happen.
Exactly, and you're like, it's not about education, Mom. Like, no. And for a lot of us, we don't even tell our parents like the things that we experience and see. But realizing that like the historical context. So one of the ways I was explaining something to my mom was about like how just the fact that if you're a felon, you can't vote in a lot of places fundamentally makes no sense. Right? It doesn't make any sense. So you committed a crime. Even like I think you should even be able to vote while you're in prison, but we know that'll never happen because of where prisons are located, right? Like if the prisoners in Huntsville, Texas could vote, Huntsville's gonna go blue, and they don't like that, right? So it's tricky. But at the very least, when you get out, right? But a lot of that was strategic, like the whole Mississippi plan of like the 18 whatevers, like that's like right after slavery ended and people were able to vote, Black people were voting a lot, and then they said, wait a minute, the South, right, Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, they were like, wait a minute, we can't let these, those are the same people we fought to only count for 3/5. We can't have those people voting. Like there was a time where there were more Black people who were winning elections, and they're like, wait a minute, we can't have that happening. And so they start to do things. So part of how I was explaining it to my mom, because she's older and she's not going to do all the research, I was like, look, if you said felons can't vote, a lot of people are like, okay, that's fine. But then they start making stupid things felonies, and immediately, as a result of the Mississippi plan, you immediately had people going from voting in 60-70% down to like 10-20%, because you're criminalizing poverty.
Felony was a strategy to make people not.
It's one of the strategies, like things like poll tests, like
one of many.
We all hear poll tests and we're like, yeah, poll test is stupid. But even now, a lot of us will joke like, there are stupid people voting, we should bring back a poll test. But like one of the questions I heard that was on a poll test was, how high is up? Like, I'm sorry, what? Like,
the answer
if you get the answer wrong, you can't vote. Like, that's the level of strategic, and none of these things are intentional, right? A lot of that is strategic, because at the end of the day, all of us know that voting is costly in the sense that it costs you time, it costs you effort. So if they make it just a little bit harder, like everybody on this call, I bet if they said it'll cost $25 to vote, most of us will no, you wouldn't do it. I feel like I'd be like, okay, sure. But that doesn't mean it should cost $25 to vote, because the minute you make that, voter turnout is gonna like crater, right? Because people are gonna be like, so I have to take time off work, I have to do this, I have to do that. But they know this, and so they keep making it harder.
$25 per hour.
No, right? No, that's right. It's so whenever people are like, oh, these people don't vote, they don't care, and it's also like, again, someone will tell you, what has voting ever done for you, and you're like, that's not the point. But it's like, it's fair, it's true. And they're like, oh, I got to take time off work. It's hard. You got to register to vote. You got to check where you're registered on election day. Do you go to your polling location? Do you go to anywhere in your district? Like, it's stupid. But anyway, that is.
Thank you. I think. So for Michael, wait. For Michael that just joined, where did you vote? Have you? Let me say it, and then you go on. Have you voted? Where did you vote? What's the situation on ground? What's the situation on ground? And what are your thoughts about the election? And then this conversation we're just having, kind of the words. I think some of it we've already discussed online, me and you. But like this whole voter suppression thing, yes. African Americans, why it's low with voting, and also empathy with immigrants. Not understanding the plight of African Americans. So it's kind of what we've been discussing. So take it away.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the eggheads. I really appreciate the opportunity to discuss about this ongoing voting. Yes, I already voted. I voted on September 29th, actually. Oh, September 30th, actually.
You started like you were going to give us a campaign speech.
I voted on September 30th. It was actually our wedding anniversary, our traditional wedding.
Tell us how you voted for people that don't understand. You need to tell us the process.
So
because yours is different.
Yeah, so you apply for your every year. There are a number of elections that take place, regardless of any jurisdiction you might be in. It might be because of somebody dying, it might be because of primaries. Something always goes on. So what you're advised to do is that every year, if you live overseas, I voted in Nigeria. You apply for overseas balloting, and they'll send you automatically by email. Overseas balloting, by the way, is different from the military mail-in ballot or the absentee ballot in the US. They have different rules. For the overseas balloting, it's the good thing is that they can actually send you the ballot by email, and then you vote, and then you take it to the embassy in the country that you're in. And provided you submit that ballot before, in the case of Nigeria, before October 2nd, then they would mail your ballot to your county for free. If you miss that October 2nd, you can do it directly by yourself by putting it in a DHL or whatever, and then it will get delivered. So on September 30, myself and my wife actually went to the Nigerian embassy in Abuja, and we dropped our ballot. We tried to do it in a significant day. That was a significant day for us, and we wanted to just. And this was also my first time of voting. I'm a first-time voter as a citizen. My wife had been citizen for more than 10 years, but I just finally agreed. Donald Trump pissed me off so much. I finally agreed to take American citizenship. It pissed me off so much, man. So I decided to become a citizen last year. After so much sweat, the guy made me sweat too. In fact, I applied for my citizenship 1 week before I lost the ability to apply because of residential requirements and all that. So I barely made it, but I was lucky. I got my citizenship late last year, and so I voted at the American embassy for the first time. Prior to that, my strategy for voting, I was a big Obama canvasser in 2008, and I was always very, very, very vocal about, I'm a liberal, so forget all that story. Me, I be called liberal to the core. I believe in abortion. I believe in all those bad things. It's no problem. So me, I believe in all those things. So anyway.
Yes, abortion.
I'll just say, I'm not like one of those people that will be here defending. Donald Trump probably got more abortion than I ever got.
Michael, you know where?
He's true now. I'm not a bad boy now.
My brother just, that when you said this thing, what you just said is that, does anybody here believe that nobody has aborted pregnancy for Trump before?
Trump
before you came, that person was like,
minimum of 10. I can say it loudly. So I believe in all those things, and I was canvassing for Obama openly and everything, even when I was not a citizen. But I never really felt a need, to be honest, to take on the citizenship because I also indirectly controlled about 3 votes. My wife's grandmother, my wife, my father-in-law. So I always control their votes every election. So I really want to do the balloting for them. I really want to. So me, I had 3 votes. I had 3 votes. So
you delivered.
It's true now. So I never felt the need to actually become a citizen until this time around, and I did. But the point is, I have heard all the discussions, and I think one thing that I want to, I attended an HBCU, Prairie View A&M University, go PV, and I was the head of Senate, the leader of the Senate in the student government, and I remember one of the major, for 2 terms, by the way, 2003, 2004. And our SGA president was Hendrik Mason, a Ghanaian that was born in Nigeria. So just to give you context. So he was the head of the SGA president. I was the leader of the Senate. And one of the things that we did during our tenure in Prairie View was this issue of on-campus voting. The Waller County, by the way, which lies outside of Houston, just between Harris, Tomball. I'm sure you know that county.
That's a red county, Abby.
It's a red county. That's where they killed this lady. What's her name? Who was also a former student.
Sandra Bland.
Yeah, Sandra Brown.
Bland.
It's a very racist. Yeah, it's a very, very racist county, and the Waller County judges always do a lot of things to prevent Prairie View students from voting. To the point that for more than the school, Prairie View is the second university that was founded in the state of Texas after Texas A&M. They were actually both founded. One was founded in 1876. One was founded for blacks, the other for whites. And Prairie View had been in that location for that number of years, and they never allowed them to have an on-campus voting location.
That's crazy.
And we fought it all the way to the Texas Senate.
That's standard.
Yes, we fought it all the way to the Texas Senate. I remember going to the Senate, sleeping over, myself and Hendrik, and they were looking at us like, what's wrong with these mad 2 African boys who were speaking with an accent, who are insisting that African Americans
can they even vote?
And the African American was out, and they don't even want to vote. Hendrik and I were neither citizens, right?
Yeah.
Or the guys were looking at us like, what's wrong with them? Why are they insistent? And we're like, look, we come from a place where voting is something we already were doing. I mean, I left Nigeria in 2001, and I could already vote. So why should African Americans that we read in books and they did all this, and then that the Martin Luther King, this, and they can't vote. Why? It doesn't make any sense. You guys have to give these people the right to vote. But you could see the institutional resistance. The Walla County guys conspired. The Secretary of State of Texas, they fought us. I think the right to vote, we got the right to register during our tenure. But the right to vote, I think it was just recently given on Prairie View campus.
So, just to give you some difference, and hello, hello, Michael. It's good to see you again. It's been a long time.
Absolutely, bro.
And Ayo, it's great to see you again. All my long
everybody
friends. I went to Texas A&M. I'm an Aggie, and I can tell you.
Welcome.
Ayo, get out. That your dirty school from down the street.
What's so?
I said what I said.
Yeah, you did.
Big Maggies. So anyway, to your point about voting, we had on-campus voting in Texas A&M, and we had it for a while. While I was a student there, we had that. So it's funny to learn that you guys had to fight for it. But you know what's so funny about voting in Texas? When they realized that college students typically vote less, and by the way, A&M was, at least at the time when I was a student, was one of the most conservative campuses in America. Okay?
Sure.
They passed a law whereby a student ID does not count as sufficient identification to vote, but a gun license does.
Yeah, I worked in the state capital when that passed.
Not even gun license, until license.
Until license.
Just number.
Until
license.
Can I ask a question real quick? How many people are not from Texas on this call? Okay, we got Jersey.
I have to tell y'all my joke.
I'm typically Jersey.
I have to tell y'all my joke about Texas and Nigerian immigrants. I say that every Nigerian immigrant in the U.S., wherever you live, that's just the place you're living before you move to Texas. It's just like that's your pre-Texas location.
So we have some former.
There's some people in the comment section on that table.
Yeah, Kingsley doesn't count. That one is you're hustling backwards.
Are you mad? I lived in Texas for how many years now?
I'm saying you're hustling backwards.
Yeah,
Y'all need prayer.
I still have somebody in Texas.
Hold on, guys. Boy.
No, what I was saying, like a lot of the stuff y'all are talking
going
about
over your head?
is really surprising. Like, it's so easy. No, like in Illinois and Chicago, they make it so easy to vote. Like, so I can come with a letter with my address for my bill.
So let me give you my voting experience.
Wow.
I'm in New Jersey, right? So as you know, because of COVID, we implemented all mail voting, right? And I cast my vote by mail. Now, New Jersey has signature verification, and they have to verify your signature on the ballot compared to what you have on record. So, someone's echoing. Is that me?
I may be you, yeah.
No, that's you.
Me?
Yeah.
Let me mute. Hold on.
Yeah, and stay that way too. So as I was saying, right? I got a letter yesterday saying that my signature could not be verified. And so they needed me to submit what is called a cure form to verify my signature so that they could accept and count my ballot. Okay? But the good thing is, hang on. It's unfortunately an inconvenience. However, the good thing is I could submit that cure form by email, by fax, or I could take it to the county office, which is about 30 minutes drive from me.
I mean, it sucked, but I sent my cure form by email this morning, and it will be rectified, and my ballot will count. Okay, so to your point, Boye, different states have really made voting as difficult or as easy as it should be, depending on what they perceive the outcome should be. And so in Texas, the drive-through voting, for instance, they're trying to throw that out because they know that's going to, in Harris County, that's going to make it very convenient for Harris County to increase its margin, right?
Mm.
And that's what might be important. That's 100,000 votes.
Exactly. Of course. 127,000 votes. Are you kidding me?
That may actually be the difference. That may be the difference in this election.
Yeah.
In Texas.
Mm. No, but Kingsley,
I mean, I think those will stand, but yeah.
But to Kingsley's point,
I mean,
now let's let Tayo finish now. Let Tayo finish now.
Let Tayo speak.
I go ahead, please.
Oh, that's fine. No, I was just.
Don't worry,
I was just going to say that one. I think.
So I'm hearing you guys off points. Just go ahead, Tayo.
Sorry. Okay, so I was just going to say that, like, yeah, I think those votes will stand. But I think that, one, Republicans know, and I mean, where's Lai? I don't know if he's hearing, but he and I were just talking about how he's significantly more confident about the results of this election than I am. But it does give me a lot of comfort knowing that overall, statistically, when more people vote, Democrats win, right? Which, one, is a fundamentally interesting thing to come to terms with, that your party wins when less people show up, right? It's like, are you happy with yourself? You know, and of course they are, right? And so they know that the harder they make it and the fewer people that can vote, you know, the better their odds are, like all of this nonsense that they've been doing. But part of that is also, like, you know, the Supreme Court decision that essentially allowed us to end up in this weird place where the southern states no longer have to get permission to change the rules. And as soon as they got that passed, they're now like, we're changing all the rules, which is the evil genius of the Republican Party, right? Like they understand that they're like, we're not going to do this thing directly. We're going to say things like, oh, I was explaining to my roommate just today that so I worked at the Texas Capitol the year that they passed a lot of the voter ID rules. And one of their explanations, which you have to kind of hold your nose to be able to believe this explanation, right? They said, yes, voter turnout is low. And the reason people don't vote is because people don't trust the voting process. So if we pass voter ID to make the process more trustworthy, more people will vote, right? So part of that reasoning is they're like, yeah, you know, you need to show ID, because there really is no reason that you have to show ID to vote. But okay, let's say you have to show ID, and then all of the arguments about should student ID count, should hunting license count, all of these different things. But all of that, their reasoning was, you know, if we make the vote more secure, more people will vote. But then you think about all the people, like for most of us, our main IDs are driver's license. Well, if you get enough tickets and you don't pay them, you're going to lose your license, right? And so now,
if they close driver's license offices close to where you live, and then you have to go 30
exactly, right?
You have to wait for 3 days to get an appointment.
Like all of these little things that they know how to manipulate and they know how to do it. And it's just, I don't know. Either way, I think that that's so I say that to say that I'm really glad that voter turnout seems high this year. I think that'll be the difference.
Like, by the way, talking about voting IDs in Texas, you can't use your student ID, but you can use a gun license. Like you can use your gun license.
I have a question. Lai is always triggering me to ask questions. Please don't be annoyed. Can I ask a question? So based off of the very last part of what you just said, like I was going to ask. So there's been all this talk about, oh, if Ross loses, there's probably going to be friction on the streets and all that. How many of you are exercising your Second Amendment rights, at least on a pro forma basis?
Illinois. So you should know I'm still a Texan at heart. When I moved from Texas, I brought my shotgun. It is what it is, man. Right?
So I don't have one yet, but I plan to.
I mean, obviously, I'm not.
I don't actually think there's going to be civil unrest.
I'm not stopping everywhere I go. So, but to your point, to your point.
Yeah, I don't think any goddamn thing is gonna. Maybe in Vidor, Texas, and all of these random ass little towns. Like like if you're a black person and you live in one of those towns, like take down your Biden sign. Like don't be unnecessary.
I don't see. Let me just make this point. I don't see us having a shootout or anything like that. I don't see all that kind of electoral, unless if there's like a major effort.
Have they built Carl Rittenhouse? I mean, what's his name yet?
I thought something. I heard something about him today. The stupid boy with the AR-15. That shot.
Yeah.
Kingsley, this is me side eyeing you. That question was me side eyeing you.
What I'm saying, Justin, is that unless we see a very, very blatant effort to invalidate what is the will of the people, I don't see a hot war breaking out. But what I will say is this, and I was discussing this with Oluseyi earlier today. I think that there is what I call a cold civil war going on in America right now, whereby because we are so divided, depending on the part of the country you are, the fact is that if you go from one region of the country to another, it's not just a geographical difference. It's
like traveling abroad.
Yeah, it's such a cultural difference. I remember, when I lived in Texas 4 years ago, right? The Sunday before the election, I went to church and I sat in the pew and I heard the pastor say that those who vote Democrat are voting for socialism and godlessness.
Oh, that's like normal rhetoric.
Really? While in the middle
that's normal Christian Southern rhetoric.
Right? So it was a predominantly white Baptist church, and that was the last day I attended, by the way. Right now,
even beyond that, the predominantly black Nigerian churches.
Now. Haven't moved over here. Haven't moved over here. I now attend the Methodist Church in New York, right? And you hear the sermons, and obviously he's not exactly mentioning the president by name, but he is. I mean, you don't need a soothsayer to see that he is decrying a lot of the actions that the president is taking. Like, for instance, when the immigrants were being separated from their parents, right?
I'm putting cages.
Yeah, he spoke about how that was such an affront against God's justice and things like that. We are living in two different realities, and we've been here before, right? I think this is the most divided we have been since the Civil War era, in my opinion, right? And it was at a time when also you had a fat white racist president who divided America on racial grounds. His name was James Buchanan, right? And then divided us on the issue of slavery versus non-slavery, and the country broke apart. I'm not saying America is going to go into a hot civil war or where we'll be shooting each other out. But I think we are in what I call a cold civil war right now, where families can't talk to each other. There are people I don't talk to anymore on the basis of support for Donald Trump.
So just Justin, to answer your question, though, I don't think it's going to be like a shootout at the Old Corral. But what I do think needs to happen, by the way. But what I do need to happen, and I wouldn't have said this before George Floyd. I would never said like after George Floyd I wouldn't go buy a gun. Period. And mind you, I live in probably one of the most violent cities in the U.S. It's not as bad as
one of.
I mean, shit, let's be real. Like I lived here. I mean, it's not as bad as people make it seem. But
it's a radius that's really bad. It's not the whole of Chicago.
Right. So, but I said to say that, like
they call it Chicago.
So what? It's Chicago. Shut up.
They call it Chicago.
But in all seriousness, though, I do think that people need to be prepared and to protect themselves, not because it's going to be like a shootout, but because it's going to be that one crazy dude somewhere that's going to try something, and you need to have the ability to protect yourself. That's just what it is. I mean,
I also think harassment. I also think because of harassment. I've seen all kinds of videos. Now, while shootouts may not happen, a lot of harassments will.
Right.
And
So you have to be able to protect yourself and protect your family, because I think, like, unfortunately, like Americans bend to the will of violence. That's just what it is. If people know they will get hurt, maimed, or otherwise, they tend to keep their distance. So I think that's what it is. I think, honestly, and that's what Trump has done. He's emboldened people. Like, you've seen videos on the CPA where white dudes on a red line are calling people nigger. Like, that would never happen because they just know that's just something you just don't do, especially in a city like Chicago. And you can just do getting knocked out and fall on the train and they want to act like they're the victim. So I think that's probably going to be, you're going to see more of that than more of like straight out like people with AK-47s marching down streets and get into military formation. You're not going to see any of that.
No. But you will see everything but the shooting. You are going to see people come out, all get up. We've been seeing that already to intimidate you. You're going to see people open carry states. You're going to see a lot more of that. Open carry state. You're going to see a lot more people walking around with
There'll be clashes. There will be some clashes.
I don't think shootouts will come out, but the fact that these people are emboldened, for sure. Whether he wins or loses is a mute point.
So let's play an alternative scenario, contrary to what everybody on this call would love to see. So what happens on, what's that date again? Kingsley, you broke it down. What's the date where the determinate date?
It's December 14th.
December.
Hold on one second. We just had someone join. Nika, the way it works, how are you? Have you voted? Where did you vote? Any election violence? And
are you taking advantage of your Second Amendment rights?
and we're talking a larger part about the divide between Nigerians or immigrants and African Americans, and then voter suppression type issues.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. And
welcome, Neka.
Thank you. No, I have not voted, but I have instructed my mom to vote on my behalf, and she has.
Where did she vote?
Where did she vote? She voted at George Bush High School on FM 1464.
She has the address. She put that in Texas. Okay. All right. So, lend your voice to some of the things we've been talking about.
Make Texas blue.
Yes, as far as getting people out there, I think we texted about 190,000 people in the last 3 days. So yeah, I mean, I may not be voting, but I'm definitely pushing the dial for people to go vote.
All right. So what do you think? Like, what do you think will happen in Texas?
I don't know about turning blue. I don't think we're gonna change MJ Hager. I don't think we're gonna. I mean, I think Cornyn is still gonna win. I don't know. It's a tough one. I think we're gonna turn purple, not completely blue, and that's just personal opinion. I don't think we're gonna be able to turn blue.
I'm interested in the Texas State House. Do you know what? Does anybody know what's going to happen with that? I'm hoping you can get a majority in the.
It's looking good. It's looking good. It's looking good for the Texas State House.
That would be awesome.
That would be big. That would be
big shout out to Beto,
because that's going to affect redistricting.
Yes, it's going to affect redistricting.
Justin, remember that stuff I was telling you, how people will sit down on the table and carry biro and draw where they want people
and draw a new map.
Yeah. But I want to also say this about Texas and where we are today, right? It is true we may not turn blue this iteration, right? But the fact is that for the first time in my experience in America, we have made the GOP have to defend Texas. And what that means is that they have not been able to apply those funds elsewhere.
Elsewhere, that's true.
And
and Georgia.
Yeah. And the fact is that, surprisingly, Joe Biden has actually outraised Donald Trump financially in terms of money to be spent on the campaign.
That was actually surprising.
It was a big surprise because Donald Trump initially had the cash advantage, and then
act blue,
and then Biden just started act blue. God bless those folks. They make it so easy to donate.
So much of my money.
You know when you're just blue, and it's just one step. You just press it.
I'm tired.
They make it so
I have a question, Kingsley, please. I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Bola, did you intentionally put Democrats on this call? Why are there no Nigerian Black Republicans here?
So
they don't like
They should not be here.
First of all, they are hard. They're hard
First
to
of all,
find.
Michael, do you know any?
And
they are hard to find, and when you ask them to come, this was an open invitation. I sent it out.
They're not hard to find, but they're embarrassed because they know that they're stupid. I found out two people who are. No, now. If you,
I will use.
You can't have this skin color.
Let me
No, they are despicable, deplorable. And then the other D word.
Calm down. Let me defend them.
You can't defend them.
No, there's no defense.
Let me say.
You have to be calming down.
Exactly.
Not this election, not this time.
No, let me say this. I think a lot of, Kingsley was just telling you guys about how churches play a big role in Republican propaganda. And knowing Nigerians for who Nigerians are. Most Nigerians
I can hear.
Right? Most Nigerians that live in America, the most American day they tend to have, or close to American, is the day they go to church. Mm-hmm. So, if that is their opportunity of feeling among, and a lot of them just see, and there are also some Nigerians who are generally, what they call them, they always like to go against the grain, right? They always like to go against the grain. So they also do. So, in defense, I don't expect all of us to have our head lying in the same direction. I respect their right to vote Republican, to vote for Donald Trump.
I actually don't.
So Michael, I'll say this.
Right? Like I don't respect it.
Michael, I'll say this, right? I've like you, like I've been in this country for a long time.
Yes.
And we have always had our Democrat versus Republican debates. Right? I have been a Democrat since I heard Bill Clinton speak in '93, right?
Yeah.
But we have always had our Democrats versus Republican debates. What I would say though is that the advent of Trump brought something entirely different, right? It's not just a question of, should we have more taxes versus less taxes? Or should we fund this program versus this program? Should we have
any of that?
Should we go to war here versus go to war here or not go to war? It's about, are we, all of us who are on this call of Nigerian origin, are we entitled to the full benefits of being American or not? Or are we going to be other? Where do we stand in this country? Right? Do we
face challenges because of our skin color?
Exactly. And you have somebody in office saying that we shouldn't have people from shithole countries come here. And by the way, he didn't remember that when he was retweeting that tweet earlier today of those idiots who were marching in favor of him in Nigeria, right? But left to him,
and he's also blocking our embassy from becoming WTO.
They shouldn't
despite
be
being a Nigerian American.
So, left to him, they shouldn't be allowed to come here. So when
absolutely,
I think
which makes that so sad.
Yeah. So Donald Trump is a whole different level entirely. And so we will always have our conservative versus liberal Democrat, But if we cannot look at Donald Trump and say, my God, you are a step too far, then something has gone fundamentally wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me say that I get you, Kingsley.
There's a
Okay, go ahead.
between like, in fact, I don't even tie liberalism or progressive to Democrat per se. I don't tie that's ideology that is not necessarily anchored in party. At a one-to-one correlation. But to Io's greater point, I think is a big difference between being a conservative and being a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Like, I think a Trump supporter is more of a symbolic thing. That red cap evokes visceral response. You know what that means. Like, it's not about like, oh, this person's a Republican. Like, no, you stand for the killing of 5 innocent black boys.
Yeah.
You know, who are acquitted. You stand for redlining. You stand for, like, you know, housing discrimination. You stand for all the things that are wrong with this country. Wrong for women, wrong for people of color, specifically black people. I think Trump means something different. Trumpism versus conservatism can't even really be intellectually kind of discussed in
it's not the same thing.
They can't be the same thing.
Talking about Nigerians who support Trump or black Trump supporters, listen, throughout the history of America and throughout even the history of Nigeria and the world, there will always be people whom, if they can just carve out their own, right, they are willing to let everyone else hang out, right?
Yeah.
In Yoruba history, you've always had Afonja, right?
Yeah.
There will always be people, even during the slavery period, there were black people who were like, no, let's not end slavery. There were black people who owned slavery.
Yeah,
of course.
Right? You will always have people who, even though, as our Charlton said, they may be my color, but they're not my kind. Right?
Now is a good time to mention that the Texas GOP chair is actually a black guy. So
Alan West. Yeah.
Oh, that's the big guy with white hair on his head.
He used to be a congressman.
Texas.
He used to be a congressman, and he was always
Republican Party chairman
socialist.
for Texas. He's black.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colonel Alan West, I know him.
Yeah.
So
I have to class in an hour. So bye everyone. It was nice chatting.
Bye.
All right.
So to kind of add a little bit to what has been going on. I mean, I think there are two things. As we've said, I'm super confident that this election is going to be over very soon, very early. I actually think, if Biden wins Texas as an example, we're going to know who wins Texas tonight, right? And if Biden, for instance, wins Texas, it's over. Like, there is not going to be anyone in the streets crying about somebody stole something or whatnot.
Yeah, but that's a big if, though. That's not as if
that's if. But regardless of but even if Biden wins, I think we will still have to, in this country, we will still have to deal with the issue of Trumpism, because these guys are not going anywhere.
Absolutely.
So
that's my point.
Whatever, solely 30, 35, 40% of the folks that looked at it, because those guys are virulent supporters of Trump. It's not just it's not cavalier in any way or form. So I think personally,
I'm going to actually make a prediction. Sorry to cut you off. I want to make a prediction along that line, that Donald Trump is going to run for president again in 4 years' time. Go and write it down.
I don't think that'll happen.
I think that'll happen.
You don't know that guy. Okay.
Maybe his son.
You don't know that guy. He will run again.
I think that's only possible, like, because I think Donald Trump can be embarrassed, and I think that if he loses in such a way tonight, like to where like I said, like it's known early and it's embarrassing, and that's what I want, right? I don't want him to just lose. I want him to like be disgraced, when they start saying things like, "Oh, never in the history of this country have we ever."
Shameless. You cannot be shameless. Let me tell you.
But I think you can be shamed.
Humiliate him because he believes.
I think he can be humiliated because I think.
Yeah, he can be humiliated. I mean, what he would likely do is to probably, he would throw some sort of tantrum. For instance, if he loses Texas and Georgia, right, or if he loses one of those states, or maybe even Florida, it will be hard for him to turn around and and claim something happened, because one, those are quote unquote Republican states that has his allies running the states and all of that stuff. But going back to what I was trying to say, I think we have to figure out a way to deal with Trumpism, because the guy is gonna be in our consciousness for the next until he dies, right? He's gonna be out there saying stuff. He began his political career by saying Barack Obama wasn't a citizen. That was what made him popular, and he wrote that into the White House. So,
let me tell you what I'm afraid of. Let me tell you what I'm afraid of.
I'm about to dip off. It was a pleasure meeting everybody from Texas.
Dealing specifically with Trump.
Bye, Chicago.
All right, take care. Good luck.
All right, take care.
Like, what I was going to say is this, right? Let me tell you what I'm afraid. Sorry, go ahead, Oluchi.
Dealing specifically with the issue of Trumpism, here's a, to me, bigger risk. It's not Trump himself enduring into the next political cycle. It's someone else picking up the baton. All the elements that he has used, but having more refinement, more polish, more.
I hate
like Matt Gates. Matt Gates.
That's what I was just about to say. I hate like get out of my head. Right? Let me tell you who we should be afraid of. People like Tom Cotton. People like Josh Hawley. Right?
I'm not scared of those ones.
They are not charismatic.
Wait, these are Republicans.
What about Matt Gates, the one from Florida? What about that?
No, Gates is a clown. Gates is a clown.
Are you sure?
Tom Cotton, people like Tom Cotton, these are people. Okay, I don't know if you guys know this about Tom Cotton. When Obama was president, he nominated somebody to the circuit court. Tom Cotton single-handedly blocked this person's nomination for several years until that person actually died.
So
and
he was able to do that because
wait, and he did it specifically.
The Republicans play politics, the Democrats play patty cakes.
Wait, and he did it specifically because because this person was close to Obama and he knew it would hurt him, right? Tom Cotton is the kind of person that if he should get power, like Oluseyi said, he has the refinement, he doesn't talk brash, he knows how to use it, and he will cut you through and through. Those are the people that I am afraid of in a post-Trumpian world.
Trump is a demagogue, but he cannot govern. Okay? He can galvanize a base, but he has no governmental instinct. He's a grifter. Tom Cotton can use the apparatus of government in ways that Trump could not. And so
not even dream of.
The next iteration on Trump will be so much more dangerous. So when Lai says that we need to deal with the issues that fomented and gave rise to Trumpism, it is actually vital to the American experiment. And I think, this is something we've all kind of mentioned at different points, but securing the democracy, the fundamentals of rights and access to vote across the entire country, the questions of jurisdictions and what's the thing where they do gerrymandering, we have to address and make sure that our democracy is actually representative. See, the Republican Party despises the rule of the masses. Right, the rule of the majority, they despise it. This has been their MO for 150 years. Okay.
So in other words, we need to have the Voting Rights Act as a priority. To me, these things Democrats always discuss it like in theory.
It has to be practical.
No, but that's not true. It has been passed a couple of times. It just gets blocked when you have a Republican majority.
So this time around, we need to do away with the filibuster. Yeah, we need to do away with the filibuster. If you have 50-50 and you have the vice president, pass the Voting Rights Act, make Puerto Rico, American Virgin Islands, and Washington D.C. states. That is what Republicans will do.
Amen.
Those are not easy things to do, though.
But it's the thing, though. It isn't about one vote here or somebody trying to confirm a judgment there. It's about a strategy. It's about a strategy. When you think about Republicans, right? they had like a 10, 15, even the fact that we have conservative justices on the Supreme Court today, this was something that started in 1985 when they started the Federalist Society, where they were like, you know what, we're gonna get young law school students. We're gonna get young students that are going to law school. We're gonna groom them. We're gonna do
they're strategic
this is not about passing one thing here or passing one thing there. They've had this strategy for the longest time, and everything is coming.
There is the opposite side to the Federalist Party. I was a member of the American Constitutional Society, but they're not as funded.
But anyway, so the thing about gerrymandering, right? In 2000 and I believe in 2010, when the Republicans took over the House of Representatives, that was the plan that they had 10 years before to kind of like take over the states, the states houses, so that they can now draw the House of Representative lines and gerrymander. I mean, this was a long-term strategy. So that's the kind of long-term thing.
Long-term strategy.
Yeah. So that's the kind
of why they can have long-term strategy is because they have a much smaller set of policy objectives that they have coalesced around. I like to point out that the advantage, so if you think of every issue as just one line, right? Some people are to this extreme or that extreme. Treat it as binary, people have a place. Yeah? And you treat those as axes. Conservatism is saying where all those lines intersect today. Status quo. We want to hold the status quo. In some cases, they want to pull back, but for the most part, just stopping progress, stopping change is enough for them. So they're able to get people who disagree on a lot of different things, but all agree we don't want to see things change. So they're able to hold. You consistently see party discipline. You see vote discipline. You see political discipline from conservatives and the Republican Party. The Democratic side of the House of the country is this coalition of people who all have independent agendas. And at the slightest option, they start to attack each other because they disagree fundamentally. Right? So we have black men.
But why should we?
Immediately, women's liberation. We don't want to see gay rights.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
We can disagree on the issues. But as liberals, why is it okay for 3 minority-dominated domains not to have representation in Congress? If they were white states, they will already have representation.
I don't think it's okay.
That's the truth. So Democrats, in some ways, are guilty of racism, and they just don't want to admit
it. Here's what's going on.
Wait. Kingsley, let me answer. And since you raised the ask me that, everybody is guilty of racism. Okay, let's not pretend. Everybody is guilty of racism. We are all victims of racism, and we all perpetuate racism in different ways, consciously or subconsciously. We are all part of the system. All of us have racist behaviors, even when we don't have racist perspectives. Okay?
I agree.
So when we now talk about a state apparatus or a governmental apparatus like the Democratic Party, and you think about all the people who have grown up through different eras, people who were born before the Voting Rights Act, who lived through civil rights, you think they will not have racist inclinations or racist understandings or racist legacies? I mean, we're now talking about terms like, this person said super predator, and that person was pro the crime bill. Racism is a steady state of the American experience.
Yeah, so I wanted to say this. I actually don't think it's necessarily a question of racism, right? For me, I think it's about the fact that Republicans are simply a lot more adept at wielding power when they have it than the Democrats are. Again, as I said earlier, it's about shamelessness. Take a look at the Supreme Court nomination of Amy Coney Barrett, for instance. Right?
Shameless. You cannot shame the shameless.
Complete shamelessness. Because the very same people who said that if a Republican president nominates a Supreme Court justice during an election year, they would not advance that nomination. They all, pretty much to a person, advance the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett. But unfortunately, Democrats can be changed. And so I think that shamelessness, to an extent, hamstrings them when they from wielding power the way the Republicans would do.
The shame bit, it's also like Shay is saying, it's when you have a rainbow coalition. Can you guys hear me? Am I echoing? I hear.
No, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Boshanga, maybe
So when you have a rainbow coalition of people who are very different coming together,
that too.
Fundamentally, it's a lot harder to have a consensus as opposed to let's just not allow progress happen, right? Versus when you have, like, think about, like, there are a lot of people who are progressive, but trans issues are where they're like, this one is too much, it's too far. Even inside of the LGBTQ movement, there was a time where gay people were like, we want access to all of these things, but we don't really fuck with trans people, right? When you have a rainbow coalition, just such as LGBTQIAA and all those letters, and that's just one segment. I mean, there's asexual, and I don't remember the other A one is. So I know there's at least 2 A's, right? But and that's just one of the coalitions under which
we are trying to add. We are trying to add polygamists to that LGBTIAP.
I mean, polyamorous should definitely be in there. But it's fascinating because you have people who are telling AOC that by supporting Biden, she's alienating the progressives who like her. And you're like, are you joking? Like, look, I was joking with my roommate today that, like, I know that there was like a whole thing with Biden and some video about him touching people too long, and I was like, look, I don't care. Like, as a woman, there are things that I care about, but even if there is like a credible sexual assault accusation, I'm like, look, I'm gonna plug my ears and I'm gonna vote for him because that's what we have to do. But I think a lot of the party is not comfortable doing that, and I think that like, yeah, the Republicans are unshameable, but part of it is because they're like, look, we know what we want, we know how we're gonna get it. If there are things we need to eat up, we're gonna, eat it, swallow it, and we're gonna move on. Whereas Democrats are striving for this Narnia, and they all describe it very differently, and they're all trying to push the wagon there. And so you have people.
It's a definite political calculus. You say it's shamelessness, Kingsley, right? But what happens is that if you are a Republican and you go back on your word, but you are consistent with the party expectation, there is no repercussion.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's political calculus. Oh, in 2016, when Obama was president, I said, I made this principled stand. But in 2020, when we have all the houses, oh shit, man, we're going to roll this bitch through.
Yeah.
It's fine. Nothing's going to happen to you. The party, you're fine with the party. On the other side of the house, because of this coalition effect, because of this distribution, because of the friendly fire risk, every time you are perceived to have gone back on what you said or not maintained the consistency of your position or broken faith with your specific sub-constituency, you come under significant attack. So even when a procedural point at the nomination of AOC, making the video about, because he received votes about Bernie Sanders, boom, all these, like, y'all don't even know the rules.
Yeah.
You don't even know the rules to this game, and then you want to apply political costs to people, and then you wonder that you don't get your desired outcomes. So it's all very much intertwined as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree with that. With that.
It's not a matter of shame. It's a matter of political calculus. Look, if America was a parliamentary system rather than this bifurcated system, we would have many more parties, and they would have to form coalition governments. That would make explicit the axes of division, and there would be less of this infighting, because you know that at the point where you are forming a coalition, you are explicitly trading off for access to power. But because everybody inside the Democratic Party wants to feel like the party has to represent me and all of my issues, every time there's a trade-off against someone else's issues, they want to act like it's a betrayal. So it's this fundamental thing about progressivism wanting to push out in so many different directions, which many people are individually uncomfortable with. Again, I make the case of a lot of us black men. We're very much about black liberation, black power, black financial and economic reward.
And that's
but
it.
A lot of us black men are very much not about women's liberation. We're very much not about and queer issues, right? And so even though we are liberal and we are progressives, we are regressive or conservatives in some dimension, and that's why sometimes we cross the divide. So when they put Hillary, wait, you fit in the
It was easy for black men to leave. Yeah.
You want a woman?
I want a white girl.
You should be
a white girl. Yeah.
Right? These things intersect, and this is the challenge, the fundamental challenge of progressivism. Now, in this particular cycle, it's not the decision-making factor. A lot of what is driving many people to make a compromised choice. A lot of people are voting for Joe Biden on a compromise basis, and it's just because of the specific excesses and failures of the Trump administration, particularly in this year. If COVID hadn't happened, he would have won.
Trump had a good chance.
Yep.
So
absolutely agree.
I mean, is it not? I mean, I like your analysis around Rainbow Coalition and the challenges, as Ayo had also said. Now, is it not also a factor of the readiness of the leaders in the Democratic side, progressive side, to fashion out a long-term look? When Nixon decided to adopt the Sun strategy, he realized that strategy was not one that will yield results in the next 4 to 8 years when he was president. It was a long-term strategy for the Republican Party to be sustainable. Now, let's look at the Democratic side. I think Democrats always assume that, number one, because they always have this state of political allowance where they feel that, one, every young person is going to be a Democrat, or most young people are going to be Democrats. They're going to vote Democrats. Most women are going to go Democrats. So Democrats play the identity politics, as opposed to Republicans that almost want to catch their adherents from the college. They will have this so-called college Republican group, and they are supposed to be Republicans all their lives. Democrats feel that they have these wiggle room, so we don't create long-term strategy. For example, if we're going to be talking about the long-term strategy for the party, are we not supposed to be looking at, one, what and I'm going to say this openly, and some of you might disagree, is healthcare reforming, making Obamacare better, is it a priority? I think no. It is not a long-term priority because Americans have shown that they don't really care. Look, I just looked at the exit polls on the TV right now. 11% are voting because of healthcare. 46% are voting because of economy. 23% are voting because of social. Healthcare was number 4, 11%.
Okay, wait.
When Democrats, let me quickly finish this thought. When Democrats want to prioritize when they get power now next year, the way Obama did, I think to some extent, we've won the healthcare debate largely in America. Democrats have to be strategic. Americans don't reward you for giving them stuff like Social Security. Yes, you did it, you won it, they've moved on. Obamacare, you gave them, they've moved on. And those people that were abusing Obamacare now like it. Some of them will not say it openly, but that's the truth. But you need to find policies that will make your party viable in the long term. Number one, this issue about onboarding additional states. Immigration. If you put 10, 12 million immigrants, don't care what the Republicans say about you. Get 12 million immigrants, give them citizenship. They will forever be beholden to your party. That's a strategy.
Okay.
But Democrats want to choose the feel-good stuff, healthcare, this. They will now be making noise. They will be running around the whole country. 11%, that's the exit poll. So political reality dictates that.
All right, guys, make your last point.
Right.
Michael,
we'll call it a show pretty soon. So just make your last points quickly.
Michael said a lot of things there which warrant some response. The first thing that I heard that pricked my ears was when he talked about identity politics, right? I think that is really an adoption of right-wing talking points, unfortunately, because the fact is that it's only when we are talking about people of color or LGBT folks and people like that people like to talk about identity politics. But when Republicans talk about, oh, the white working class or the farmer in Iowa or people like that, essentially the majority or even the military, right? They're not talking about, they don't say it's identity politics, right? The fact is, politics is by definition an appeal to respective constituencies or identities. That is the definition of politics. It's about I as a black man, right, in America of Nigerian origin, what are the policies that appeal to me? That's how you get my vote, right? You can call it identity politics if you want. I call it politics. It's just that's just how it is, right? With respect to being strategic, I agree that there's room to be more strategic and things like that, right? But when you're talking about the college Republicans and stuff like that, I agree that there's a need to build that pipeline of talent from the college level all the way and sustain that, especially when it comes to courts, for instance, right? That I entirely agree. That I entirely agree with, and a lot of it has to do with the infrastructure, right? I think the party level, the national party level of the Democratic Party, is very weak, right? What's his name? Evan Perez is the chairman of the Democratic Party. That man is as visible as
it's very boring,
incognito, right? He has no impact on the party at all. On the other hand, when Howard Dean was chairman of the party, now there was a party chairman, right? I don't necessarily agree that we always have to put things like making adding more states, and that's how we go long term. I agree we should do those things. I don't think that necessarily builds that coalition. I also disagree with the comment on Obamacare, because the fact is that in 2018 the Republicans ran on repealing it, and they lost that election handily because we made the Affordable Care Act and the retention and growing of it a thing. So it's really complicated. I think the issue is that when you get in office, when you have been given power, knowing what we face with the Republicans, wield that power to the highest extent that you can.
Amen.
That to me is the issue. And my one criticism of Barack Obama is that while I thought he did an excellent job, right? He did not translate the affection for him into the affection for the Democratic Party, right? There are people who till today are Republicans just because of Ronald Reagan, right? Even people who were Democrats that became Republican just because of Ronald Reagan, right? If there's if there's something I wish Obama did better, I wish he translated his personal appeal into core democratic principles that his successors could hang on to. And if Biden wins, I think that's something he does.
That's true. That's actually a really good point, Kingsley. Because the ideology thing with liberals or liberalism is a little bit fuzzy, because conservatives have extremists, the right wingers, and but there's still a core base that you typically understand where they stand. Liberals on that end almost feels like the extreme part of liberalism is what's showcased the most, and not everybody is comfortable with that.
I mean, I think it's just a failure to articulate. Okay,
there you go.
So what is conservatism? Not Trumpism, not extreme right-wing madness. What is conservatism? It is actually a belief in a small government. That's really the foundational element, trying to constrain the size and impact of government to maximize the liberty of the individual. That's the philosophy of conservatism at core. To the extent that the party actually believes in it and follows through,
Yeah, but I'm not sure I agree that that's the conservatism, because you believe in small government but a
There's no
large
conservative in
military.
American
But
politics.
a large
Every
military.
American
Military is part
politician.
of government.
Now you
Military is part of government now.
hypocrisies of how people who are stated conservatives actually act, vote, and govern. That's fine. But as a matter of political philosophy, that's supposed to be.
Yeah, but they believe in spending money on military though.
Well, they believe in a strong national defense. And some of
But
that
that's part of government, and you believe in spending a lot of money. I feel like they believe in spending money in what they believe in or what they want to
Exactly.
spend money on.
right?
Like,
Exactly.
But then you end up with no differentiation. Okay? I'm not saying that this is exactly what they do. I'm not diagnosing what they do. I'm just saying that this is supposed to be the ideological foundation. And what they all engage in
But is that? But I also think that is falling for their. I also think that might be adopting a favorable view of them.
I'm not adopting that.
Maybe okay, no, maybe let me throw this.
This is what they tell themselves they are.
Yeah, that's what they tell themselves exactly. But they now
I'm not telling you what they are,
liberal,
but this is their ideology. Okay.
Yeah, they now define liberals as spending money.
What is the ideology of liberalism? I believe the ideology of liberalism is saying that despite the ostensibly God-given and inherent rights and freedoms afforded to every individual, the reality of human lived experience is that majorities will impose on some. And so there is a need to use the apparatus of state to protect those rights for those minority groups. This is why liberalism tends to be this, agglomeration of small interests, gay people, the black people, all these different groups, women, all these groups that were not part of the mainstream for whatever reason at each time, and who felt marginalized or oppressed by the mainstream. That is what liberalism and progressivism collates. It says that everyone deserves that freedom, not just those who have an identity affinity. To Kingsley's point about all politics and identity, not just those who have an identity affinity with the majority. Every member of the population, every citizen deserves those same protections. And so liberalism would extend and use the apparatus of government and intervene where necessary to protect those. And that's why you end up with the idea that liberals prefer big government while conservatives prefer small government. That's my thesis.
All right.
I think I sort of define it differently. Someone had said before, and I agree with them, that conservatism is more about a liturgy to change. Whenever they put their definition or defining their ideology as small government, state rights, I laugh because none of them believe in that stuff. None. I literally mean no Republican I know believe in small government.
Not at all. Not really.
They almost every Republican I know want to use government to push their own agenda. Absolutely. Or whether they are a Republican in America or they are Conservative Party in the UK, they want to use exactly. So I would say more that conservatism is about resisting change. They are the party of the status quo. Whereas progressives, and they would define everything, like they would define even their philosophy around gay rights, their follow around the traditional marriage institution, which is all BS anyway. Because they are the ones that have all these funny family histories and everything. We know that for sure. But they define their resistance, they even define their refusal for states, for example, to do certain things around this idea that you don't need to change because the founding fathers gave states' rights and residual rights to citizens. So it's around resisting change. And let us be very clear. That gives them substantial advantage. Because the natural state of people, of mankind, if you know any set of people that it is not to change, it's inertia. So if they get into a conversation around changing things or keeping things, naturally people don't want to change stuff. People just want to live their life. And if the thing is that only those people who are not benefiting from the current system wants to change it. And so this is where progressivism now comes in.
And they all want to change it in different ways.
Exactly. So I think that narrative makes more sense when you think about it. If we are looking at it, that people that want to change because they are not benefiting in different ways, but people that don't want to change because the system is working, they feel satisfied. And let us remember, everybody have different level of satisfaction. What will satisfy you might not satisfy me. A man making $30,000, I have an uncle, by the way, who is a staunch, crazy Republican, and he's also a Trumpist. He's my uncle. He's a younger brother of my mom. He lives in North Carolina right now. Himself and his wife go crazy on Trump on Facebook. Guess his argument. His own argument is that, look, when I was in Nigeria, I suffered. I finally got green card. I got to America. I opened a store, 2 stores, 3 stores. Republicans are not going to tax my store. I will make money to send back to my old father at home. See, he doesn't want to change. Yeah. So the fundamental philosophy, and he's satisfied. And when I tell him that, look, Democrats are going to give you better healthcare, he said, leave it. I don't need healthcare. I mean, and this man, he truly has been in America for 8-10 years. He doesn't need healthcare. And he's telling me that I've never been sick, leave me alone. Exactly.
Why sacrifice money chasing?
Exactly. But that's the way he thinks. Let us remember that he's been living on the hard life in Nigeria. And now he's satisfied with his life in North Carolina. Okay. You are the one that wants to change it because you have an ambition and you have a bigger thing to. So that advantage is what Republicans and conservatives have, that people generally do not like change. And your what satisfies you might not be what satisfies me.
No, absolutely.
And even to take it one step further, you have a like I was arguing with a friend lately about how black men are okay with black women fighting a lot of battles because they know that whatever we first gain, right? Like if you think about gains as sort of a process, the first set of gains will benefit everyone. If the men are like, let's think it's 18 whatever, and the fight is to end slavery. Well, men are like, yeah, when slavery ends, we'll get our freedom. Now, this whole other fight about women's liberation and all of these things that black women want, I don't have to sign it. It's kind of like we're all getting on a bus, right? We're in a bad place of the bus. We're all getting on a bus, but you may be okay with that bus from New York. You're trying to get warm weather, right? Like from New York, you're like, look, as soon as we hit North Carolina, I'm good. I don't need to get with you to Florida. I don't need the beaches. I don't need the bikini girls. I don't need all that, right? So those same people are gonna tell you as soon as they get to North Carolina, give me my change back. I don't need to fund the journey all the way to Florida. And so then you get to a point where liberation becomes this thing where the first, straight black men will get theirs, and then maybe straight black women, and then you get all the way down before you get to everybody else. The buses run out of juice. because at every point it's fighting against this inertia. It's okay as it is. Look at all the things we've got. And I think it's also the same way the same reason that especially black immigrants have some of these mindsets, because they're like, look, no matter how bad, even if post-election violence breaks out, if you reach Niger, you get and that for some people, they're like, look, things are already better. And so there's no reason to try to get more or try to push for more. Whereas there are some of us that are like, look, the future can be so much brighter if we would all just commit to pushing for it. But I don't know where we.
So is the way and to Ayo and she and our honorable co-host Bola.
Honorable.
How do you overcome that inertia, if not by you also using the same system the Republicans have been using all the while?
Exactly, you make it uncomfortable for people.
One, or even rigging the system to deliver change all the time. So you have to rig the system to always deliver change, so that you like change. You are the party of change. So you must push for structural advantages. You cannot. But I mean, I think it was political malpractice that Democrats allowed Voting Rights Act to stay expired after while Obama was in office. For what? Kill the filibuster. Because by killing the filibuster, doing the Voting Rights Act, you have forever tipped the advantage to yourself. So why will you let that thing not be properly and do it alongside healthcare in the first 2 years? So we need to also say some
even rest, may her soul rest in peace. Like, I'm pissed off that RBG did not retire under Obama. It makes no sense. I mean, I understand. Like, I think like
clap for yourself. Like it's true now.
Like,
these are the behavior that we
but again, that's white women, right? That's white women being like, look, I'm gonna try to hang out here because there is no level of fear that white women have that's anywhere near the fears about the future if they don't go the way we want that people of color have, because it doesn't make any sense. You really thought I'll survive another, because it's not just 4 years, right? It's not like if she had quit in 2014, early 2015, there would have been enough time to get a replacement.
Exactly.
But in her mind, she's thinking, assuming worst case scenario, I have to survive, because the absolute worst case scenario is just to live another 9 years, right? Because typically we don't have presidents who are just one-termers. So from 2015, 1 year to the new president, 4 years and another 4 years. Like, nigga, you really like?
He was probably not doing a worst case scenario. He was probably saying, okay, we've got Obama now, and I could retire now, and I'll be replaced by someone who shares my values. But the next president is likely to be and could possibly be Clinton.
Why are you taking that risk?
I want that.
It's exactly. It's the risk that you don't take when your children's lives are on the line.
Yeah, and
it's a privileged risk.
It is a privileged risk.
And Ayo, but even by the way,
that's why they did not
kill
you. It was a privileged gamble, right?
Yes,
not all the people who are on your side, who are sensibly advocating on your behalf, have your level of risk exposure. And so very often they're going to do things that end up disproportionately impacting you. And this, of course, creates in a lot of people a disillusionment with the party as a whole. Because what have they done for me? How are they really looking out for me? They're only looking out for their own interests. This is a fundamental problem of a minority population in a plural society where the power still lies with the majority.
Yep.
All right, guys.
Professor
we have to call it.
I beg, hold on. This guy is a prof. You see the way the guy is breaking everything down.
It's in the blood now. But don't you know it's in the blood?
The way the guy they break up. No,
I can imagine him. I can imagine him growing up. All the books have made him cramp.
Bola, you need to archive this discussion, because if I just imagine some of the things that we brought out, because some of the things we are discussing is also a way of sort of like an agenda setting thing for this Biden presidency. And for God's sake, Biden is going to be 82 years old the next time around. So I don't expect, he will not say it now. I don't expect him to run for a second
term. Probably going to be a one-term president, even if he wins.
Yes. So
I think so.
He has to look at those 4 years as, oh boy,
do or die, as in everything.
And he has to think he has 2 years old. He has to think like he has
majority in.
Yep. Because
2 years.
Now winning this year. So
we will have it. Don't worry.
And it's been almost 4 hours.
All right, guys. Correct, guys. I love this.
Wrap it up. Michael, good talking with you. Ayo, thanks so much.
Nice to see you guys. Ayo, well done. Carry. Bale, Justin, don't go sleep. Now. Good night.
Justin is dealing with his village people.
16 minutes, guys. Let's keep watching. We are going to crack.
I love it. Good night, y'all. A good day.
All right. Take care, guys. Thank you so much for joining. We'll be back again next week. Hopefully with good news.
Ami.
All right, I'll take care, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.
All right.